Chapter 421. Cui Jun died miserably, with wounds all over his body. After the surgery, although the hospital stitched up his wounds, they still looked really scary. Cui Zhanxian saw his precious son's miserable state, and his heart felt like it was being cut by a knife over and over again. Moreover, Cui Jun's death could even be said to be unjust. Sun Yin previously confessed that the truck was directed at Jing Yunzhao and Ji Shanshan, and Cui Jun was the one who was accidentally implicated. After knowing this reason, how could Cui Zhanxian not be sad and angry? Especially towards Ji Shanshan, Cui Zhanxian's personality was actually surprisingly similar to Cui Juanxian's. He was used to Ji Shanshan's relentless pursuit and being at her beck and call. Now, Ji Shanshan's cold attitude made him feel that his heart was hit hard, as if Ji Shanshan was an evil person who betrayed his son. Cui Zhanxian naturally went against the Ji family after going back to the Ji family. However, the Cui family was originally weaker than the Ji family. Now that Cui Zhanxian was stubborn, he naturally fell into a disadvantageous position and became worse day by day. He didn't pay much attention to his family's pharmaceutical business, and the people under him slowly had problems. The pharmaceutical methods were different, and the effect of the medicine was also very different. With a bad reputation, it was basically impossible to return to the heyday of the past. Jing Yunzhao didn't continue to pay attention to the Cui family's matters. With the Ji family watching, Cui Zhanxian couldn't do anything out of line. Once Xiao Haiqing was released, the two returned to school. However, Jing Yunzhao didn't completely forget about this matter. Instead, he asked Pak Yuan to check on the Hong family's situation. Tian Hong Industries was founded by Hong Tian's deceased father, and it mainly produced some construction machinery parts. However, his business was very big, so he earned a lot every year, and the development was very stable. Although Elder Tang was the #1 boss in Ning City, it was a bit excessive to say that he could cover the sky with one hand. This time, Elder Tang helped a lot. Otherwise, Xiao Haiqing wouldn't have been released. Therefore, Jing Yunzhao prepared to deal with the Hong family himself. In front of him was a pile of information about the Hong family. This included Hong Tian's connections and the projects he was currently targeting. Hong Tian and Xiao Daoan's cooperation was mainly because they wanted to get involved in real estate, which was a profitable business. In addition, he was now famous and powerful, and the bank loans were easily obtained. Hong Tian was also ambitious, and the first thing he did was to start a big project, which took up the entire commercial street, covering an area of more than 20,000 square meters. After this project was completed, Hong Tian's value would definitely increase again. Brother Bai, get someone to keep an eye on Tian Hong Commercial Street. Even if there's a small disturbance, inform me immediately, Jing Yunzhao said into the phone. How could there not be any problems during the construction of such a large commercial street? Pak Yuan was also angered by the Hong family's actions this time. Once Jing Yunzhao said that, he hurriedly agreed. When Jing Yunzhao thought of Hong Wen, she felt extremely disgusted. However, Hong Wen's actions reminded her that if Hong Tian's business district was really that clean, then don't blame her for creating some dirty things. To deal with unusual people, one naturally had to use unusual methods. Benevolence and morality were simply a joke to the Hong family. However, other than Pak Yuan, Jing Yunzhao didn't tell anyone else about this private matter. She also didn't show any intention of targeting the Hong family. Instead, she stayed in school and continued to be a good student. This murder incident had a huge impact on Xiao Haiqing. Although it was determined that she was acting in self-defense, her hands were still stained with a life. Those teachers and students looked at her with a trace of fear and avoided her as much as possible. Chapter 422. In the blink of an eye, another month had passed, and the winter vacation was coming. In this rare piece, Jing Yunzhao also inquired about the Hong family's business district clearly. It was just that there were too many things that happened during the construction of the business district. There were often problems with the building materials, workers were injured every few days, and similar things were as common as the hairs on a cow. It didn't seem like something that would happen at the construction site of a large enterprise. Even the contractors at the construction site felt that the Hong family's project was a little strange, as if it was cursed by someone, and there was no end to it. And on this day, when the shovel of the excavator went down, a a pile of white things appeared. Everyone went over to take a look, and they were so scared that they broke out in cold sweat. They saw that there were actually dozens of human bones buried in the soil for no reason. It wasn't a strange thing to dig up human bones. After all, it was such a big piece of land. It was normal for there to be some problems underneath. It was just that there were many houses built in this area in the past, and they were all cleaned up by people. The bones weren't buried deep, either. If there were, they would have been dug up long ago. Why would they wait until now? In addition, there were too many things happening at the construction site every day. It made people's scalps tingle, and they took this matter seriously. Yunzhao, do you think this Hong Tian did something that angered people and gods? We haven't done anything yet, and the problems keep coming. Now, there are already workers at their construction site who are on strike. If Hong Tian doesn't appease them and increase their wages, the workers will definitely quit. In the company, Pak Yuan smiled and said. Jing Yunzhao was also surprised, especially when she looked at the photo in her hand. She felt that it was a little strange. She came into contact with the herbal field every day, so she knew the difference between new soil and old soil very well. Although the piece of land where the bones were dug up didn't seem to be any different from the surrounding area before it was dug up, if one looked carefully, they would notice the difference. These bones should have been specially buried by someone else, but there were dozens of them. If they weren't models, then they were probably dug up from some old graves. But it was impossible for there to be no news at all. Other than us, there should be someone else keeping an eye on the Hong family, Jing Yunzhao said. When Pak Yuan heard this, he thought for a moment. Could it be that Elder Tang helped us? That's impossible. If the old man wanted to make a move, he wouldn't use this method. He would directly suppress them. Jing Yunzhao was very sure. After saying this, he thought of another person. The recent incidents at the Hong family's construction site seemed to be giving her something to use against them. It was as if someone knew that she was investigating the Hong family's small problems, and they kept appearing in front of her. This method seemed to be Li Xiaoyun's style. As Jing Yunzhao thought of this, the image of Li Xiaoyun's mischievous smile appeared in his mind. His mood was complicated. I think I know who it is. Since someone is creating an opportunity for us, we just have to grab hold of it. Brother Bai, you can bribe some people to cause trouble and say that there is a thief in the Hong family's construction site. Take a few photos and post them online. Also, haven't we taken many photos of the Hong family's construction site recently? Post it as well, Jing Yunzhao said. She had seen the power of the internet. As long as there were enough ghostwriters, it was guaranteed that the Hong family would have a stable position on the front page. This was free publicity for the Hong family. If Hong Tian knew about this, he would probably die of laughter. A cold smile flashed across Jing Yunzhao's face. When Pak Yuan saw this, he couldn't help but shudder. He always felt that Jing Yunzhao was more two-faced than before. In the past, although he was capable enough, he was always open and aboveboard. Now, he had learned to use some dirty tricks. Chapter 423. With Jing Yunzhao at the helm, Pak Yuan only needed to do it. On the second day after the bones were dug up, hundreds of people came to the construction site. They were all dressed in white and wore mourning clothes, holding banners in their hands. After they rushed into the construction site, they went straight to the place where the bones were buried. When they arrived, they immediately started wailing. Aya, my uncle, you suffered a lifetime of suffering when you were alive. Now that you're dead, your corpse was stolen. How could that shameless thief throw you in such a place? Uncle, a man sobbed with snot and tears running down his face. With one person leading the way, everyone else followed suit. My mother, how can my father feel good? You were obedient all your life, but you were forced to be buried with others. Your children and grandchildren are unfilial. The surrounding workers were all dumbfounded. Those bones had long been transferred to the police station for identification. Why did these people come to their construction site to cry? Why are you crying? Now, there's nothing but a pit. The person in charge of the Hong family's construction site hurriedly came over to persuade them. But before he could finish, those people glared at him and scolded him. Is it you? Are you the one who stole my uncle's bones? The dead should be respected. You even dared to offend a corpse. Are you still human? The person in charge was Hong Tian's nephew, Hong Chong. Once he heard those words, he instantly defended himself. That's not me. Don't accuse me wrongly. Also, we don't even know who those bones are. Why are you here crying? Aren't you afraid of crying for the wrong ancestor? Bastard! Instantly, someone took out the sole of his shoe and threw it at him. What nonsense is this bastard saying? There's no good person in your Hong family. You don't respect the dead. No wonder there's always trouble at your construction site. Don't think that we don't know that there are ghosts crying in your dilapidated building every day. Just wait. They'll come at night and crawl to your bed to settle the score with you. Instantly, all of them pointed at Hong Chong and scolded him. There were people at the side who took photos. This was someone hired by Pak Yuan. The angle of the photos was naturally more peculiar. There were too many people who came to the funeral, so the photos were not clear. However, they managed to capture the scene where the Hong family was scolded to the point that they wanted to fight. However, Hong Chong also saw that someone was filming. Of course, he did not dare to act recklessly. With a bitter face, he called Hong Tian to inform him. Hong Tian didn't take this matter to heart at all. It was just bonehead. The Hong family didn't kill him. They could just send him to the police station. Besides, whose construction site didn't have any accidents? Not to mention digging out bones. There were even construction sites that directly dug out zombies that were hundreds of years old. Just follow the procedures and deal with it. What's the big deal? Thus, when he heard Hong Chong's cries, Hong Tian said impatiently, "What's the point of raising so many of you? Directly chase them out. Otherwise, don't blame me for changing the engineering team." Hong Chong naturally carried out his orders. He immediately gathered everyone at the construction site. Unfortunately, when Hong Chong managed to gather everyone, the people that Jing Yunzhao bribed also ran away. Since the photos were already in her hands, she didn't need to use her real strength. Soon, there was a storm on the internet. Not only did Tian Hong Company lead their workers to force the victims' family members to disrespect the deceased, but they actually used their numbers to cause trouble. Not only that, Pak Yuan also sent a water army to spread public opinion. For example, the construction materials used in the construction of the commercial street were inferior, resulting in a series of accidents. There was also the rumor of a haunted house being built, causing a lot of discussion. Chapter 424. With the public's opinion, Hong Tian couldn't ignore this matter anymore. He quickly sent people to investigate, but the troublemakers claimed that they got the wrong person. They only went to cause a ruckus and didn't break the law. Hong Tian couldn't do anything about it. Hong Tian wanted to build a commercial street. If it was already so unlucky before it was even built, who would dare to buy it? Those merchants who had already bought it started to cause a ruckus. The public's reaction was too great, and the higher-ups would definitely send people to investigate again. However, on the day of the investigation, a few workers in Hong Tian's construction site suddenly screamed, as if they were scared out of their wits. There was no other reason other than the fact that Jing Yunzhao was dressed in white and had a scary makeup on as she walked around the construction site. Her martial arts were improving every day. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that her body was as light as a swallow. Although she couldn't leap onto roofs and vault over walls, it was still easy for her to create a mysterious atmosphere in front of a group of ordinary people. Jing Yunzhao didn't do anything else because she didn't need to. She used the convenience of the space to monitor the situation. The workers were unstable, but Hong Tian still had to curry favor with the inspectors. He braced himself and explained to the inspectors. He even got someone to book a private room in the hotel. The group of people had just sat down when they were surrounded by a group of reporters. The headline was eye-catching. It was nothing more than Hong Tian trying to curry favor with the inspectors and trying to bribe them. It seemed like a simple matter, but to Hong Tian, it was a heavy bomb. Hong Tian had to be treated seriously by the higher-ups. Moreover, this incident happened one after another. The shares of Tian Hong Company plummeted. Most importantly, Hong Tian's construction site wasn't clean at all, especially in terms of the materials. Many of them didn't meet the standards or were different from what was reported. After they were found out, they were all mysteriously exposed to the public. Although Hong Tian wanted to make money, it was his own project after all. He put in a lot of effort. However, this project was full of exploitation. Although it wasn't a shoddy project, there were many areas that didn't meet the standards. Although it could be rectified, how could it be so easy when the house was already half built? Now that the shareholders kept pressuring him, it directly affected the company's business. Every step was difficult. This was probably Hong Tion's situation. He even thought that it was all a coincidence and that he was just unlucky. However, when he reached a dead end, he realized that something was wrong. For example, those workers who always had accidents mysteriously disappeared. Also, the higher-ups investigated too quickly. It didn't seem like they were dealing with an errand at all. It was more like they were peeling silk from a cocoon. They would only be satisfied if all the details were exposed to the public. Also, his every move was being watched. It wasn't easy for him to find an opportunity to turn things around, but it was intercepted by others, and those partners inexplicably went back on their word. It would have been fine if it was just once, but it just had to be incessant. Hong Tian racked his brains. He had no idea who he had offended. He was also on guard against a few companies, but he didn't find any suspicious actions from them. The same went for the Tang family. Everything was normal, and the reasons for their partners to go back on their word were very legitimate. Jing Yunzhao had long predicted this outcome. If she only relied on her little tricks, she would be able to make Hong Tian run out of luck, but it would take some time. Moreover, if Hong Tian found a big backer, there was still a chance for him to rise again. But now, the Hong family was deteriorating day by day. It was obvious that Li Xiaoyun was the one behind her back. However, Jing Yunzhao couldn't help but suspect his identity. Even if he was the young master of a wealthy family in the capital, he shouldn't be able to reach so far. Moreover, there were no traces at all. This was too abnormal. Chapter 425. Jing Yunzhao was surprised and touched at the same time. Li Xiaoyun was indeed a good friend to her. Although he had done so much behind her back, he didn't say anything on the surface. Although he had made a move, he only helped her to suppress it and didn't show it too much. She owed him one more favor. With Li Xiaoyun behind her back and Jing Yunzhao using her own connections to suppress them, it didn't take long for the Hong family to be in a terrible state. However, as a Missy, Hongwen didn't feel that the family was in a crisis. In her opinion, the Hong family had a big business and it wouldn't take long for the business crisis to be resolved. There was no need to worry at all. Hence, she was still happily socializing outside. Hongwen was playful and dabbled in all kinds of strange things. Usually, she would go to various bars and clubs. Her nightlife was very rich. Jing Yunzhao had never forgotten the expression on Xiao Haiqing's face when she walked up to her after killing someone. If she didn't take revenge for this, she wouldn't be able to rest easy in the future. However, this Hongwen was interesting. She hadn't gone to find her, but the other party had invited her and Xiao Haiqing. Previously at the racecourse, Hongwen knew that she and Pak Yuan were siblings. Hence, she specially got someone to speak to Pak Yuan. The meaning was simple. She said that there was a misunderstanding previously and hoped to meet to clarify it. In the future, she would treat it as making more friends. When Jing Yunzhao heard this, she couldn't help but laugh. Hongwen probably felt uncomfortable knowing that she and Xiao Haiqing did not suffer any grievances. However, it had not been long since the car accident, so it had not been easy to contact them previously. However, now that it had been a month or two since the incident, the dust had already settled. Only then did she remember them. Pak Yuan didn't have a good impression of Hongwen. After the person who passed the message left, he snorted. This Hongwen, I really don't know if she's smart or stupid. The Hong family is now on the verge of collapse, yet she still wants to scheme against you. Yunzhao, I think it's better to reject her. This woman is vicious and likes to play dirty tricks behind people's backs. Jing Yunzhao shook her head. I was worried that I wouldn't have a chance to get close to her and get my revenge. This opportunity is just right. Anyway, I have nothing important to do. It's good to see what she wants to do. This Hongwen's cleverness was used to harm people. If she used it in business, her father, Hong Tian, wouldn't be like this. It's a pity that she came from a good background. Immediately, Jing Yunzhao and Xiao Haiqing. At the mention of Hongwen, Xiao Haiqing gnashed her teeth in hatred. She was not the kind of person who would back down, so she agreed without hesitation. Hongwen said that she wanted to go out and have some fun. The location was in a private clubhouse in Serene City. From the outside, It looked like a place where people could relax physically and mentally. However, the inside was very lively. It was similar to a bar, but most of the people who came were from rich families. Jing Yunjiao went straight to the clubhouse. When she entered, someone led her to Hong Wen's private room. She saw that the people inside were all over the place. There were more than 10 people, and it was chaotic. When Jing Yunjiao arrived, the people inside were quiet. Then, she heard a man say, "Xiao Wan, is this the girl you introduced? She's too young." "Isn't that so? She's not as cute as these girls beside us," another man said. Jing Yunjiao's mouth curled up. She understood. They were calling her over to humiliate her. But unfortunately, she really didn't fall for it. Chapter 426. Jing Yunjiao and Xiao Haiqing walked over. Hongwen smiled and said, "You're here? But you're a bit late. Shouldn't you drink 3 glasses as punishment?" As she spoke, she glanced around. 2 strong men were guarding the door. Hongwen took out a bottle of wine from under the table and poured 2 glasses. Hongwen smiled in her heart. She had asked someone to invite Jing Yunjiao as a joke so that the 2 girls wouldn't forget about her. She, Hongwen, had been sent to the police station in her life, but because of Jing Yunjiao, she was sent there. Although she only stayed there for a few hours, she lost face in front of so many people at the racecourse. Until now, she didn't have the face to go to the racecourse. She was afraid that others would see her and mock her again. This Jing Yunjiao was really lucky. Not only did she not die, but her bones were also fine. Wasn't this a slap to her face? Although Yuling wine was very popular now, Jing Yunjiao was only Pak Yuan's neighbor's sister. How could she be considered the daughter of a rich family? Did she really think that she was noble just because she curried favor with a rich family? Also, this Xiao Haiqing's father was just a dog by her father's side. A dog was only fit to be a plaything. Did he want to ride on his master's head? Dream on. Miss Jing, I sincerely want to apologize to you. You won't not give me face, right? Hongwen smiled and said. Jing Yunjiao took the wine and smelled it. She smiled and said, "Is the Hong family going bankrupt? Why is Miss Hong's wine so inferior? Is there something added in it?" Hongwen's smile froze. Jing Yunjiao, is there something wrong with your nose? We can drink it, but you can't? She originally thought that Jing Yunjiao wouldn't come. She didn't expect her to be so daring. But what did she think this place was? That she could come and go as she pleased? Since she was here, she couldn't leave. If she didn't make fun of her today, she wouldn't be able to vent the anger in her heart. You're animals. Am I? Naturally, I can't touch the food that animals drink. As he spoke, he directly splashed the wine at the man next to him. She even wanted to reach out and hold her waist. Did he think she couldn't see him? The man next to her was suddenly splashed in the face, and his expression immediately became angry. This wretched girl doesn't want face when I give it to her. Brothers, let's use force. They were already in their territory, yet they still wanted to be disobedient. They were simply courting death. It would be a waste if he didn't use a beauty that came knocking on his door. She was still underage? So what? He would take a few photos and threaten them. Would these 2 dare to spread the news? Immediately, a few men rushed over. Jing Yunjiao raised his head and glanced at them. Miss Hong's way of apologizing is really unique. Since you've delivered yourselves to my doorstep, then I'll enjoy it. After he finished speaking, he lifted his foot and kicked the table in front of him. The table instantly rushed towards the door. The 2 strong men guarding the door were shocked and quickly ran away. The wine bottle on the table fell to the ground with a pa-pa sound. The table directly hit the door. Hongwen revealed a mocking smile. Was Jing Yunjiao's brain all right? Specially blocking the door? Wasn't this the same as blocking her own escape route? She looked like a virtuous lady on the surface, but who knew that she was so flirtatious in her bones? However, just as this thought flashed through Hongwen's mind, she suddenly felt her head become heavy. Her hair was directly pulled over by Jing Yunjiao. Jing Yunjiao pulled Hongwen's hair, picked up the wine bottle on the ground, and stuffed it into Hongwen's hand. Then, he directly pulled her hand and stuffed it into her mouth. Specially prepared wine for her? All right, let's have a good taste. When everyone saw this, they swung the wine bottle at Jing Yunjiao and Xiao Haiqing. Chapter 427. During this period of time, Jing Yunjiao had taught Xiao Haiqing some self-defense skills. They were not complicated and easy to learn. They could be of some use in times of danger. For example, now, when she saw the man raise his hand and was about to smash, Xiao Haiqing immediately blocked the man's elbow joint. If she was alone, it would be very difficult for her to protect herself with such a small trick. However, Jing Yunjiao was at the side. She lifted her leg and gave another kick, causing that person to stumble and fall. When he fell, he even brought along 3 or 4 other people. Cough, cough. Hongwen only felt the taste of alcohol in her mouth. She didn't even have a chance to breathe. At this time, she was forced to raise her head. The wine bottle in her mouth made her teeth hurt. Gulp, gulp. Time seemed to have stopped. It was the first time she realized that a bottle of wine could last so long. Her hands hurriedly grabbed in the air. The surroundings were in a mess. She wanted to strangle Jing Yunjiao to death. How dare he pull her hair? Her hairstyle was newly styled today. Also, what were these people doing? Didn't they see that she was in pain? Why didn't they drag Jing Yunjiao over? Could it be that 7 or 8 men couldn't handle 2 young girls? She cursed in her heart. Her face was flushed red, and she felt that she was in a trance. Hongwen panicked. No one knew better than her what was in the wine. Now that she drank so much, what should she do? What should she do? Damn Jing Yunjiao. She should have killed him long ago. In a short while, the people who rushed up all fell to the ground. A few women hid at the side and looked at Jing Yunjiao with fear in their eyes. You. Don't mess around. My father is. I don't fucking care who your father is. Xiao Haiqing picked up the scattered fruit plate and threw it at him. Jackals of the same tribe. They were all jackals of the same tribe. Xiao Haiqing had been very bored during this period of time. Although she was not a calculative person, the previous murder incident had a great impact on her life. Even the police had arranged for a psychiatrist to counsel her. She was almost sick. If it wasn't for Hongwen, would she have gotten into so much trouble? Yet, this group of people were helping the evildoer, weren't they? Then come at me together. There's no need to be polite. She only saw a few women screaming nonstop. Xiao Haiqing did not have the rule of not hitting women. Therefore, after a while, she saw a few people in front of her with disheveled hair, bruised noses, and swollen faces nestled together. It was a horrible sight. On the other hand, Jing Yunjiao continuously poured 3 to 4 bottles of wine into Hongwen's mouth. When the bottle in front of him was empty, he directly threw her onto the sofa. Hongwen wriggled her body a few times. Her whole body was uncomfortably hot. The lights in the room were dim, and her eyes were hazy. It looked very seductive. The people in the room had drunk a lot of wine. Although they were beaten up by Jing Yunjiao, not many of them were sober. Jing Yunjiao even saw some white pills on the table. He didn't need to think to know what they were. He saw Hongwen crawling towards the men next to her. Her clothes were a little messy, and her long hair was draped over her shoulders. Her seductive eyes were like silk, and she let out a few moans. The men were afraid of Jing Yunjiao and didn't dare to move at all. However, Hongwen couldn't resist the effects of the medicine and leaned towards them. Seeing this action like a little pug, Jing Yunjiao took out his phone and took a picture. The women at the side didn't dare to breathe loudly. They even complained about Hongwen. Chapter 428. If Hongwen hadn't taken the initiative to invite Jing Yunjiao, they wouldn't have had to endure such humiliation. Moreover, Hongwen was really too much. They didn't object to her wanting to deal with Jing Yunjiao, but she should have investigated Jing Yunjiao's ability. Look at her. She was simply a killing god. So many of them couldn't beat her, and they were even taught a lesson by Jing Yunjiao. They used to think that Hongwen was a smart person, but now it seemed that she was more like an idiot. At this time, Jing Yunjiao took a photo of Hongwen. Seeing that her clothes were almost stripped clean by her, she looked at her coldly. Then, she said goodbye to Xiao Haiqing, opened the door, and left. She wasn't worried that these people would call the police. After all, they weren't clean themselves. If the drugs on the table were found, they wouldn't be able to clear their names even if they jumped into the Yellow River. They could only endure this beating. This idiot actually sent herself to the door. I've never seen such a stupid person. Xiao Haiqing was happy when she went out. She finally vented a little of her resentment, but seeing that the Hong family was almost finished, she was just collecting some interest now. Jing Yunjiao pursed her lips and smiled. When she was fighting just now, she used needles to prick a few of Hong Wen's acupuncture points. The effect wasn't serious, but from now on, her waist would be tortured a lot. If she moved a little, the pain would definitely penetrate into her bone marrow. She never wanted to use her medical skills to harm people. Otherwise, Hong Wen would be paralyzed by her needles on the spot. However, it wasn't good to be too eye-catching. She had plenty of ways to deal with her later. When Jing Yunjiao went out, she closed the door again. The women inside didn't dare to leave. After all, who knew if Jing Yunjiao would be waiting for them outside? Therefore, they could only behave themselves. However, Hong Wen was unconscious now. She was no different from a prostitute. Her coquettish attitude made them blush. After all, those men were animals with lower bodies. Moreover, they were under the influence of drugs. Once Jing Yunjiao left, some of them couldn't stand it anymore. Low moans came from the room, and there was music playing on the screen. The dim lights and the ambiguous atmosphere made it seem like a chaotic battle. Jing Yunjiao lifted his feet and was about to leave, but he saw a few burning eyes in the hall of the club, as if they had seen their prey. A strange smile appeared on their faces. Seeing that the two of them were about to go out, they immediately walked over and blocked their way. "Little girl, don't be in such a hurry to leave." The other party smiled and passed the quilt in his hand to the person next to him. He dusted his hands and said, "Are you here to play? Since that's the case, shall we go together?" The man who spoke looked to be about 23 or 24 years old. His hair was crew-cut, and he wasn't ugly. His actions were exaggerated, and he looked like he was trying to act cool. The two of them were not ordinary girls. Naturally, they did not have a good impression of such a man. Instead, they felt that he was pretentious. "No need, please step aside," Jing Yunjiao said with a serious expression. The other party narrowed his eyes. "Playing hard to get? Interesting. 100,000 a night. If you're still a virgin, I'll spend 1 million to buy you. What do you think?" Jing Yunjiao's face turned ugly. "Get lost. Hot enough, but it's better not to overdo it. I don't have much patience." The other party smiled and didn't care. The women who could come to this club, as long as he didn't know them, were either women who accompanied the guests in this club or friends brought by the guests here. The so-called friends were actually similar to the escorts here, just a little cleaner. He was a regular customer. He had never seen these two girls in this place before, so naturally, they were the latter. Chapter 429. The man stared at Jing Yunjiao with a burning gaze, revealing a wretched look in his eyes. This little girl looked young. Most likely, she was short of money, so she came to this clubhouse to fish for gold. After all, many of the men here were rich. After a night of play, they could get tens of thousands of yuan. How could these little girls resist such a cheap thing? But looking at the two in front of him, it seemed that they didn't see a suitable rich man. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in such a hurry to leave. Were they afraid of going for wool and coming home shorn? Jing Yunjiao didn't know that this man had already carefully analyzed the two of them in his heart and even seemed to have a clear and logical look. She only felt a little nauseous. Xiao Haiqing was the same. She opened her mouth and said, "A good dog doesn't block the way." "Io, are you jealous? Don't be anxious. You two look quite close. Why don't you go together? I have plenty of money." The man smiled and said, "But I still like this little beauty more." Her eyebrows were picturesque, and her expression was cold. Although she was young, her figure wasn't bad. Looking at her long black hair, it must be much softer to the touch. As for the short-haired girl next to her, although her appearance wasn't bad, even a little hot, it wasn't to his liking. It wasn't that Xiao Haiqing hadn't been hit on before, but she knew a lot of people in Huaning County, so no one really dared to do anything to her. But it was different now. This man wasn't ordinary, whether it was his clothes or the wine he was drinking now. He also had this kind of domineering aura. He obviously thought of himself as the crown prince. She was afraid that his background wasn't ordinary. But if he was just hitting on her normally, it was fine. But his words were so disgusting. She couldn't stand it. "If you don't want to be beaten, you better get lost. Otherwise, we can't guarantee what will happen next." Xiao Haiqing said angrily. But obviously, this man laughed when he heard it. Are you trying to get my attention? Well, I'll take it that you've succeeded. As he spoke, he reached out to grab the two's shoulders. Jing Yunjiao's eyes flashed, only to hear a kacha sound. Suddenly, the man covered his arm with an angry face. Are you looking for death? After hearing this, more than a dozen burly men surrounded him in an instant. Several of them cracked their fingers and made a series of sounds. The man's forehead was covered with sweat. The arm that he had just stretched out had been removed at this time, but he was not in a hurry to go to the hospital. Little beauty, didn't you come here to have fun? I've given you a chance. Don't be greedy. You two are indeed beautiful, but look at where you are. If you're too greedy, don't blame me for not giving you a single cent. The man gritted his teeth and said. Jing Yunjiao was a little speechless. There was no lack of people in this world who thought too highly of themselves. This man was so self-righteous, as if the two of them had taken the initiative to seduce him. Could it be that he had watched too many dramas and thought that there were little white flowers everywhere? Looking at the crowd gathered around, Jing Yunjiao protected Xiao Haiqing behind him. In the next second, he dragged Xiao Haiqing directly in the direction of the door. These men were different from those in the private room just now. Each of them was trained. Their bodies were full of muscles. One of their arms seemed to be thicker than two people's thighs. Their methods were also neat. They should be professional bodyguards. Xiao Haiqing's kung fu couldn't even be considered martial arts, so Jing Yunjiao didn't dare to stay any longer. With a clear goal, he raised his hand and threw the people in the way. His palm was strong, and he aimed at every joint on their body. In an instant, the club was filled with screams, and the sound of things falling to the ground could be heard. Chapter 430. Jing Yunjiao's uppercut and leg sweep were ruthless. His inner strength was even more shocking. With a violent jolt, he forced a burly man to retreat a few meters. His strength was even greater. He grabbed the man's arm and lifted him up lightly. The man spun 360 degrees and smashed onto the ground with a bang. It sent chills down everyone's spine. The culprit frowned in surprise. These bodyguards of his were all specially sent to the military camp for training. Each and every one of them definitely had the ability to use real guns in actual combat. With these people, he could do whatever he wanted. Those street thugs would be so scared that their legs would tremble at the sight of him. However, he did not expect these two little beauties to rush up and beat him up without even blinking, especially the one he had his eyes on. Her moves were extremely cool. Her martial arts were so good that it made people speechless. No wonder she could dismember his arm in one move. Thinking about his arm, the man grimaced and sucked in a breath of cold air. He did not care where this little beauty came from. Even if she was a martial arts expert, it was useless. Since Meng Lin had his eyes on her, she could only wait to live a good life with him in the future. Jing Yunjiao's movements were extremely fast. He was no longer the martial arts newbie he used to be. Even if he faced a group of martial arts experts, it would only take him a little more effort. Not long after, he saw a group of men lying on the ground. They were either covering their legs or hanging their arms. It was extremely embarrassing. Just as he was about to leave the club, one of the bodyguards took out a military knife and stabbed it at Jing Yunjiao. The man saw this and the corner of his mouth twitched. Who the fuck told you to use a knife? As soon as he finished speaking, Jing Yunjiao flipped his hand and hooked the military knife in his hand. He turned his head and glared at the crown prince. In an instant, the blade flew towards him. The man's face froze. Before he could react, he heard a dang sound. The military knife flew past his lower body and stabbed into the glass wall that he was reaching for. Instantly, everyone fell silent. The guests at the side were dumbfounded. The men subconsciously tightened their lower abdomens. Although the military knife was not aimed at them, they still felt their entire bodies go soft. Young Master Meng, it's broken. The man at the side pointed at young Master Meng's thigh and swallowed his saliva. His scalp went numb. Meng Lin was so scared that he almost lost control of himself. He felt a stabbing pain on his thigh. He looked down and saw that the blade had left a bloody mark on his thigh. If it was just a centimeter higher, he wouldn't be able to be a man anymore. That little bitch was really ruthless. Meng Lin gritted his teeth as he watched Jing Yunzhao and Xiao Luo walk out safely. His anger made him so angry that he was in a mess. His legs were a little weak as he walked towards the bastard who had just used a knife. Without saying a word, he raised his leg and kicked him. I told you to use a knife. Don't you dare use a knife without my permission. You're courting death. It was one thing to use a knife, but the knife was fucking snatched away. Fortunately, that beauty's methods were brilliant. Otherwise, he would be crippled right now. The bodyguard on the ground didn't dare to say a word after being beaten up. Young Master Ming didn't forget to drag his arm and said, "What are you all standing there for? Hurry up and send me to the hospital." "Oh, right. Go to that private room and see what's going on inside." Who was he, Meng Lin? It was easy to investigate a person if he wanted to. Not long after, the door of the private room that Hong Wan was in was kicked open. The scene inside was filthy. 4 to 5 women were hiding in a corner, and another scene was playing out on the sofa. Chapter 431. Seeing someone open the door, the women in the room were all startled. One of the men asked, "Who are the 2 girls who just walked out of your room?" Hearing this, the women's faces turned bitter, and they were still in shock. Jing Yunzhao, and the one called Xiao Haiqing, surnamed Jing. She is the god-sister of Yuling Wine's CEO Bai. That Xiao Haiqing's father is in the construction material business. He is related to the Hong family. They didn't know much. They only heard about Jing Yunzhao from Hongwen before they came. What Hongwen meant was that this Jing Yunzhao was just an orphan, but she managed to get close to that Director Bai. Furthermore, Director Bai of Yuling Wine Company was considered a legend and was protected by a lot of people in the industry. Even the Tang family had to give him face. His business was also like the sun in the sky. Thus, Elder Tang treated Jing Yunzhao with respect. They told Meng Lin's men everything they knew. After they left, they didn't dare to stay in the room anymore. Only Hongwan, who was still under the effects of the medicine, was left. Meng Lin was shocked when he heard his men's report. According to what those people said, this Miss Hong was forced to drink a stomach full of alcohol by Jing Yunzhao. As for who among the 2 girls was Jing Yunzhao, it was simple and clear. She was definitely the one with the most violent methods and the highest martial strength. However, he thought that Jing Yunzhao was a reserved and pure girl. He didn't expect that she already had a sugar daddy. Yuling Wines? CEO Bai? He heard about it too. Previously, someone gave Master Ming a few bottles of Yuling Wines. Master Ming was unhappy at first, but after tasting it, he didn't want to drink other wines anymore. He even asked his family to buy a lot of them. Now, the wine that the Ming family used to entertain guests was produced by Yuling Wines. How could he not notice CEO Bai? As for the wine, he had drunk it before. It was indeed good stuff, especially the medicinal wine. Ever since Master Ming drank a cup every day, his body became much stronger. Young Master Ming smacked his lips. He had a good impression of CEO Bai. He didn't need to use force to save his father's face. However, she was just a woman. For this Pak Yuan to be able to survive like this, he must be a smart person. When it was time to give way, he would definitely not stupidly stand guard. 2 days later, young Master Ming made an appointment with Pak Yuan. Although Jing Yunzhao had dislocated her arm before, it was fine as long as the joint was reconnected, so it wasn't serious. Therefore, she was now alive and kicking again. In this clubhouse, a large private room was specially set up, and 7 or 8 girls were called to serve her politely. I heard that Boss Bai has good luck with women and likes young women. Look, I've specially prepared a few beauties for you. You can choose whichever one you like. Meng Lin said boldly. Pak Yuan didn't look too good. He knew clearly what Meng Lin meant by like young girls. Yesterday, when Jing Yunzhao came back, she told him that she was afraid that someone would come looking for trouble with him in the next few days. However, Jing Yunzhao didn't know the other party, so he didn't make any preparations. Until today, when he received young Master Ming's invitation, his heart thumped and he was shocked. Speaking of young Master Ming, he was different from people like Hongwan. Young Master Ming's grandfather was a military officer. He had 2 sons and 1 daughter. One of the sons was in the military, while the other one was in politics. What's worse was that the one in politics was the current leader of Ning City. Meng Lin was his nephew. Meng Lin's father was a martyr. Although people died like a lamp being extinguished, the smell of smoke still lingered in the Meng family. In particular, his father used to have many colleagues and brothers. Once he offended them, there would be a lot of people coming to make trouble. Chapter 432. With so many golden bell shields protecting him, young Master Meng was definitely a crown prince that couldn't be provoked. In Ning City, he could get whatever he wanted. Even Elder Tang couldn't easily offend him. Therefore, at this time, Pak Yuan's mood was somewhat complicated. He could only play Tai Chi with young Master Meng. Young Master Meng is too polite. I don't know why young Master Meng called me here. I heard that old Master Meng likes my company's wine. I'll immediately send a few bottles of the best wine over. Pak Yuan took a sip of wine, his eyes twinkling. As for those women, he wouldn't touch them. Not to mention that after his previous marriage, he avoided women like the plague. Even if he really liked a woman, he was determined not to touch her at all. Otherwise, young Master Meng would have an excuse to threaten him. This circle was never clean. These men and women, he always had to wipe his eyes before he considered whether to get close to them. Otherwise, sooner or later, he would be pecked in the eyes by an eagle. If all his previous efforts were wasted because of the word lust, then the gains would not make up for the losses. Seeing Pak Yuan's cautious and serious look, Meng Lin raised his eyebrows. It turned out that he was a serious person. However, even a serious person would have times when he was not serious. He had to see how much resistance he had. Meng Lin smiled faintly, his hand falling on the sofa. Although our Meng family is not a business family, we don't lack money to buy wine. So forget about the wine. If Boss Bai really wants to give me, why not give me a beauty to play with? Pak Yuan clenched his fist. Young Master Meng has seen all kinds of women. Do you still need me to give you one? Besides, there are so many women in this room. Isn't it enough? So many people can't compare to Boss Bai's little sister. Meng Lin dragged his voice and said faintly. He, Meng Lin, had been in the business for so many years. His ability to judge people was first class. How could he not see that Pak Yuan was playing Tai Chi with him? However, he wasn't in a hurry. In fact, he wasn't the one in a hurry. His Meng clan was the local tyrant of Ning City, while his uncle was the head of Ning City. If he wanted someone to live or die, it would be an easy matter for him. Pak Yuan wanted to do business in his territory, so he had to think about the consequences of offending him. When Pak Yuan heard this, he only said, Young Master Meng, you can ask around. I'm the only son of the Bai family. I don't have a sister. Where's your god sister? Do you know Jing Yunjiao? CEO Bai, don't try to play dumb with me. I've already asked someone to check it out. You two are unrelated, but you dote on her a lot. During this period of school holidays, you sent her to and from school. The house she lives in Serene City was bought by you. Meng Lin was a little jealous and said, but this was before she knew me. Since I like her now, I don't care how many men she had before. I just hope that CEO Bai can be more decisive and give her to me. Meng Lin was determined to win. When he looked at Pak Yuan, his eyes were full of contempt. People don't fight with officials. So what if Pak Yuan was doing well? At this time, when he heard Meng Lin mention his name, Pak Yuan's face turned ugly. Young Master Meng, not everyone can be touched by you. Is that so? Then what if I insist on it? CEO Bai, I heard that you have a lot of orders for Yuling wine. But guess, if I ask my uncle to open his mouth, how many people will withdraw their orders regardless of the loss? By the way, does CEO Bai's factory meet the requirements? There won't be a sudden accident one day, right? For the health and safety of the people, should I ask my uncle to send someone to check it out? If something is found, it's time to close the business. Chapter 433. Young Master Meng leisurely swirled the red wine glass in front of him. He was extremely satisfied when he saw Pak Yuan's ashen face. It was just a woman. He didn't believe that Pak Yuan would be stupid enough to risk his life for a woman. He believed that in a few seconds, he would obediently agree. Sure enough, under young Master Meng's expectant gaze, Bai Yuan opened his mouth. However, the reality was not as young Master Meng had expected. He was so angry that he laughed. If young Master Meng wants to investigate, then just send your men. We, Yuling Wines, can guarantee that everything is in line with the regulations. If there is really something inappropriate, then we will naturally rectify it. When the time comes, you don't need to say anything. We will take back all the products that should be removed from the shelves. Of course, that includes all the good wine in old Master Meng's hands. We will also provide compensation when the time comes. Young Master Meng's smile froze on his face. Pak Yuan, can you say that again? Meng Lin couldn't believe it. He actually ignored his threats for a woman? He wasn't just saying those words. With his ability, he could do anything he wanted. I will say the same thing 10 times. Let's not talk about how I don't have the qualifications to give Jing Yunjiao away. Even if I did, I wouldn't give her away so easily. She is a person, not an object. Young Master Ming, please understand. Instead of threatening me, why don't you take a step back and look for someone else? I believe that there will be many people, regardless of gender, who will fall for you. As for Jing Yunjiao, don't even think about it. Pak Yuan directly replied. Jing Yunjiao wasn't his sister, but his big boss. Even if she was just an ordinary sister, he couldn't give her away so easily. Did he think that he was Xiao Daoan? Selling his body for glory only proved that he had no ability. Relying on women to earn opportunities was a coward. He didn't know how to adapt to the situation at all. What's more, if the big boss were to give them away just like that, then what future would their company have? Meng Lin looked at Pak Yuan in surprise, and his face was not looking good. I didn't know that Mr. Bai was such an infatuated person. But your sister is still underage, right? Aren't you ashamed of being an old cow eating young grass? With Jing Yunjiao's looks, temperament, and skills, how could this Pak Yuan match her? He, Meng Lin, was born in an official family. His grandfather was an old military officer, and his uncle was a mayor with a bright future. Even his aunt was now a lady of a wealthy family with great connections. With such an identity, wouldn't it be natural for him to want a little girl like her? Moreover, he was already polite to Jing Yunjiao. As long as this Pak Yuan gave her to him, he would naturally treat her well in the future. She could stay by his side in the future. What could she not get? That's right. This Pak Yuan was indeed a golden bachelor. In a short time, the assets of Yuling Wine had exceeded 100 million yuan. But as far as he knew, Pak Yuan had been married before. He was an old man who had married twice. What was so good about him? Young Master Ming, please be careful with your words. Jing Yunjiao is not the kind of person you think. She and I are not as bad as you think. If young Master Ming really likes her, I, Pak Yuan, will not meddle in other people's business. But I advise young Master Ming that you want to make Yunjiao look at you with your flirtatious nature? That's impossible. Pak Yuan was not afraid at all. If this Meng Lin was a man who was ambitious and clean, he wouldn't show such strong disgust. But he was a man who didn't do proper work and was self-righteous. It would be strange if Jing Yunjiao liked him. Meng Lin didn't get the point. Instead, he frowned. Listening to what you said, you really don't have that kind of relationship with Jing Yunjiao? Chapter 434. Meng Lin was doubtful. How was that possible? Jing Yunjiao was such a beauty. How could Pak Yuan not be tempted? However, thinking about it from another perspective, this Bai Yuan was an old man who pretended to be serious. Naturally, he couldn't act so brazenly. Who knows, he might really treat her as his little sister. At that moment, his heart was filled with joy. He had thought that Jing Yunjiao was someone who had been toyed with and felt a little uncomfortable. However, if she was still very clean, then it would be different. Then, it would be enough for her to be his official girlfriend for the time being. Meng Lin's reaction made Pak Yuan feel confused. If young Master Meng only asked me to come because of Jing Yunjiao, then I have nothing more to say. After that, he got up and left. He came here mainly to see if young Master Meng was the one who wanted to take advantage of Jing Yunjiao. He also wanted to see what kind of attitude he had. On the way back to the company, Pak Yuan called Jing Yunjiao. This young Master Meng is not a reasonable person. In addition, his family background is very good. Since he has taken a fancy to you, I'm afraid he won't let it go so easily. Yunjiao, it's almost Chinese New Year. I'll take care of the Hong family. It's better for you to go back to Huaning County first, Pak Yuan said. Meng Lin was a man with a lower body. When he thought about problems, women were the most important. If he didn't get it, he wouldn't stop. The Meng family was different from the Hong family. In addition, there was an uncle who was the mayor. It was best to avoid them. Okay, I got it, Jing Yunjiao said. It wasn't that she was afraid of Meng Lin. It was just that she had received a lot of invitations recently. There were only a few days left before Chinese New Year. Pak Yuan's parents and the Gan family all invited her over. They were afraid that she would be lonely during Chinese New Year. However, the Bai family was in Ningxiang town, which was the neighbor of the Qiao family. Although there was no one in the Qiao family who could threaten her, Qiao Weimin was still injured at home. If they met, it would be unpleasant. Moreover, the people in Ningxiang town were familiar with her. It was inconvenient for her to go out. She wasn't very familiar with the Bai family's parents. As for the Gan clan, Jing Yunjiao also rejected it. Grandpa Gan treated her as his own granddaughter, but Grandpa Gan was not the only member of the Gan family. Gan Jinshan's parents needed to take care of her. Although they had good intentions, with her around, other families would definitely feel uncomfortable. As for Xiao Haiqing, although it seemed like she had severed her ties with the Xiao family, it was just a change in her state of mind. When it was time to return home, she didn't stop at all. It was the new year, and she didn't want Xiao Daoan and Jiang Rong to be happy. Of course, she had to be an eyesore to them. Hence, in the end, she was still alone. However, Jing Yunjiao could not help but think of Old Man Su. Although the old man did not invite her to spend the new year in the small courtyard, she was afraid that he would be lonely. Now, because of Meng Lin's matter, Jing Yunjiao returned home early. But before he left, Jing Yunjiao asked Pak Yuan to check Hong Wen's mobile phone number and send a few photos to her with an anonymous mobile phone number. In the Hong family's villa, Hong Wen was lying on the bed. The family doctor beside her was doing a checkup for her. She raised her hand with difficulty to take a look at her phone. Instantly, she was so angry that she threw the phone away. When Hong Tian saw that his daughter was enraged, he became a little haggard. Xiaowen, what's wrong with you? Who made you unhappy? Who else could it be? Who else could it be other than Jing Yunjiao? Hong Wen gritted her teeth. As she spoke, she seemed to have tugged at the nerves in her waist. Immediately, she felt a wave of pain, and her expression became even more ferocious. Chapter 435. Ever since that night, Hong Wen's reputation in her circle was completely ruined. Her friends said that she was useless. She wanted to prank someone, but she didn't succeed. Instead, she got herself into trouble. Jing Yunjiao forced her to drink 3 to 4 bottles of alcohol. The combination of alcohol and drugs made her crazy for the whole day. What made her angrier was that there was more than one man. One of those men had been pursuing her for a long time. She kept him in suspense and didn't agree. In the end, he showed up in such a way. After he showed up, he even humiliated her, saying that she was shameless and unsatisfied. Because the drug was too strong at that time, those few people left after they were done. However, her drug hadn't worn off yet, and she pestered the remaining 2. That wasn't all, but the other party even said that his body was going to be squeezed dry by her. Helpless, seeing that she was pitiful, he found another 5 to 6 men in the clubhouse for her. Another 5 to 6 men, including the previous ones. Hong Wen was so ashamed that she wanted to die. When had she ever done such a crazy thing before? Even if she wanted to relieve her lust, she wouldn't find such a dirty man. Who knew how many of those men in the clubhouse had used them? That wasn't all. After she regained her consciousness that day, her whole body was sore and she couldn't move at all. Her waist was the worst. She didn't even have the strength to walk home. However, her body, the floor, and the house were all in a mess. There were disgusting things everywhere. If someone came to pick her up, she wouldn't be able to raise her head for the rest of her life. She had no choice but to beg a cowherd to wash her body clean and buy her a new set of clothes. He even drove her back to the Hong family. However, what happened that day was no longer a secret. Everyone who walked out of the private room knew that she, Hong Wen, was a loose woman. Moreover, after she came back, she had been lying in bed for the past 2 days. Her body was bruised, and the lower part of her body was even more seriously injured. Even a slight movement in her waist would cause heart-wrenching pain. However, in such a situation, she didn't even dare to go to the hospital. She could only let the family doctor treat her. It wasn't easy for her to recover a little, but now, Jing Yunjiao was angering her again. Even if the number was unfamiliar, no one else would do such a thing except for her. At that time, the few women in the room might have taken those pictures, but they wouldn't have waited until today to send it over. They would have spread it among their friends. Only Jing Yunjiao and that Xiao Haiqing would do something like this to provoke her. Hong Wen's face was already green from holding it in. She panted heavily for a few breaths. That loud roar just now made her throat hurt again. She shut her mouth sullenly, tears streaming down her face. "Dad, how could you let Jing Yunjiao go?" His voice was hoarse as he complained. Even now, the smell of the other person's body still lingered in his mouth. She was the daughter of the Hong family, yet she became like this. She experienced such inhumane humiliation and couldn't even explain it to anyone. She had to swallow all the grievances herself. Why? Moreover, Jing Yunjiao should be the one to bear all this. Those alcohol, those drugs, and even those people were all prepared for Jing Yunjiao. Yet, she was still fine. "Xiaowen, don't make a fuss. Dad is really busy recently. I'll come back to accompany you later." Hong Tian was anxious. His daughter had always been smart. She didn't make him worry since she was young. She never suffered outside. However, he didn't know what happened recently. Everything was going wrong. This time, his daughter was even humiliated by a group of men. Although it wasn't spread, it wasn't a secret anymore. He didn't know how to live in the future. That was fine, but she was still so insensible. Chapter 436. Hong Tian looked at his daughter and shook his head in disappointment. Based on what happened to her now, she could forget about finding a family of equal social status in the future. Moreover, his Hong family was in a precarious situation now. Who would take a fancy to his daughter? He didn't raise this daughter for her to get married. Hence, it didn't matter. But now, she didn't know what was important. The company could declare bankruptcy at any time. She actually used her life to threaten him and not let him leave. At this moment, when Hong Wen saw that her father was about to leave, she felt extremely wronged. "Dad, don't go. Can you stay here and accompany me? Dad, I really feel terrible. My whole body hurts. It's as if someone is poking me with needles. The doctor is here." "Nothing will happen," Hong Tian said with a headache. Hong Wen hurriedly shook her head. "No, Dad, I don't want the doctor. I want you to accompany me. Are you disgusted with me too? Do you feel that your daughter has embarrassed you? You and that Xiao Daoan are the same. You want money and not your daughter. I'm already in this state. Yet you still think about the company and earning money. You weren't like this in the past." When Hong Tian heard that, his anger rose. Of course, he wasn't like this in the past. In the past, everything in the Hong family was stable. Even if there were some small accidents, he didn't have to worry. But now, how could the Hong family be the same? All the liquid funds were invested in the commercial street. But now, it wasn't allowed to be built. The shareholders started to withdraw their investments. Those shop owners who had already bought the land were causing trouble every day. Now, not only could they not pay the workers' salaries, even the factory workers who had been operating steadily previously couldn't pay the workers' salaries. The share price was also plummeting. Every day, countless people would block the company's entrance to ask him to return the money. The company's core members who should resign had already resigned. Some of them didn't forget to blame him before leaving. Even the bank had started to urge him. If this continued, it wouldn't be long before someone came to liquidate his company's assets. By then, even if he didn't want to declare bankruptcy, it would be impossible. With such a huge debt, the company couldn't be retained. The commercial street couldn't be retained. The factory couldn't be retained. Even this villa would probably be auctioned off. As for his daughter, she was still crying on the bed. She still wanted him to help her vent her anger and take revenge for her. She didn't even see if her father had the ability to do that. She didn't even ask if the company was not doing well recently. Was it very busy? She only knew how to be unreasonable. How would Hongwen know that the company had changed so much? She had an older brother who had nothing to do all day. Even so, Her father had never allowed her to participate in the company's matters. He was afraid that she would be greedy for the company and do something that would let her brother down. Therefore, every time she mentioned the company, Hong Tian would be very serious. After a long time, Hong Wen naturally lost interest in the company and did not dare to ask too much. But now, Hong Tian had completely forgotten about this. Hearing Hong Wen's words, he was out of breath. Touch your conscience and tell me, don't I love you? Did I say anything to you when such a big thing happened to you? Now, you're comparing me to Xiao Daoan? You didn't say anything about me, but you didn't accompany me. I was so sad. You didn't accompany me. Hong Wen took advantage of her grievance and said unscrupulously. Hong Tian's old face twitched. Do you think you're still that young, miss? If I don't deal with the company's matters, you won't even be able to use a family doctor. How dare you say you're sad? What right do you have to be sad? If it weren't for your lack of self-respect and self-respect, would you be like this now? You want to die, right? Then go ahead. If the company is gone, no one will be able to survive. Chapter 437. After Hong Tian said those words, although he felt a little heartache, he also felt an inexplicable sense of joy. Ever since his daughter returned from her accident, he had been by her bedside all the time. If she opened her eyes and didn't see him, she would kick up a fuss, exhausting him both physically and mentally. When it came to his daughter, he had always been dutiful. No matter what she wanted, he would buy it for her without hesitation. Her handbag was worth millions, and her shoes were more expensive than what an ordinary person could earn in a lifetime. Which of those things were not given to her by him as her father? As he didn't want his daughter to compete with his son for the family fortune, he let his son manage the family business. He was strict with his son, but doted on his daughter. He hoped that he could compensate her with all the good things in the world, as long as she knew her place. But in the end, all he got was his daughter's incomprehension. Hong Wen, who was still lying on the bed, was shocked when she heard her father's cold voice. Dad. She was a little suspicious. What did her father just say? He wanted her to die? Dad? You said I don't have self-respect? You want me to die? Hong Wen said again a few seconds later. Her eyes flashed with panic for a moment, but the next second, there was some resentment. Didn't her father treat her well because he felt guilty? Great, now he didn't even feel guilty. When Hong Tian heard that, he sighed. Just as he was about to comfort her, he saw Hong Wen say, Get lost. You're not my father. You want me to die, right? Then I'll go now. I don't need you to care about me. You only want your lousy company. Isn't it going bankrupt? Then let's go bankrupt. She didn't believe her father's words. How could such a big company go bankrupt just like that? Who was he kidding? He was just looking for an excuse to leave. Instantly, Hong Tian's expression turned cold. He turned around and left with a flick of his sleeves. The family doctor in the room couldn't help but shake his head. He originally thought that the father and daughter had a good relationship, but from the looks of it, the moment Hong Tian left, Hong Wen's reaction became even more intense. She grabbed a toy beside her and smashed it on the family doctor's head, chasing him out. However, the moment the family doctor left her sight, Hong Wen regretted it. The pain in her body was too obvious. Her waist felt like it was broken. How could Hong Wen know that the reason why her waist was in so much pain wasn't because of the previous day's indulgence, but because of Jing Yunzhao's needles? Jing Yunzhao had used the secret technique that he had learned from the spirit jade. If it weren't for those extremely powerful old doctors, her waist would have to endure this kind of inhuman torture for the rest of her life. Moreover, it didn't take long for Hong Wen's bankruptcy curse to become a reality. No one was willing to help the Hong family's company. Naturally, it didn't even have a chance to struggle before it collapsed. When Hong Tian took out the loan, he had mortgaged almost all the real estate under his name to the bank. Now that he had declared bankruptcy, he naturally chased the entire Hong family out of the villa. Other than her waist, Hong Wen's body had recovered about 70 to 80%. She also looked more energetic. However, without a car and a house, when the family moved out, Hong Wen found it difficult to move. As long as she moved slightly, the pain would seep into her bones, and her legs would feel like they were filled with lead. However, no matter what she said now, Hong Tian didn't trust her. He felt that his daughter was still throwing tantrums. Moreover, Hong Tian himself was also muddle-headed at the moment. His face was unshaven, and he was completely dispirited and in despair. When he saw his daughter causing trouble, he almost dragged her out of the villa. His good temper was gone, and this made Hong Wen angry for a long time. Chapter 438. On the day of the Hong family's downfall, the entire Ning city was filled with a joyous atmosphere. Jing Yunzhao was already in Old Man Su's courtyard in Huaning County. Old Man Su was wearing a red tang suit embroidered with ancient and exquisite longevity patterns. His complexion was much better than usual, but when he saw Jing Yunzhao, he didn't forget to snort coldly. "Stupid girl, where's your god-grandfather? Didn't he invite you over for the new year?" "He did, but I didn't go." Jing Yunzhao smiled and was pasting a couplet on Su Xingyuan's door. The words at the top of the couplet were personally written by Jing Yunzhao. Lu Lu Jiao Yang In sound harmonized. Spring breeze creates rain and things are reborn. To her, it had a double meaning. Her handwriting wasn't bad, so it wasn't a disgrace to have it pasted on the door. "I invited you, but you didn't go? You just had to come and disturb an old man like me." Old Man Su's beard moved, and a few words popped out. Jing Yunzhao was happy. The old man was stubborn but soft-hearted. When she came yesterday, the old man couldn't even hold back his smile. Especially when she said that she would stay here for the new year, the old man's footsteps were light. He was obviously very happy, but he didn't admit it. He was really like a child. Old Man Su's courtyard was very big. The rooms were all used as storage, but it was still very easy to empty out a room. Moreover, before they went to sleep last night, Uncle Su Xingyuan specially went to buy a new set of bedding and decorated the room especially beautifully. Even though Uncle Su Xingyuan didn't say anything, Jing Yunzhao could guess that it was definitely the old man who asked him to do so. Every time she stayed with Old Man Su, Jing Yunzhao's heart was filled with respect and relaxation. However, there was a question that she couldn't ask Old Man Su, and that was about his family. Once, she saw that Old Man Su was always alone. She sighed in her heart, so she carefully asked the old man if there was anyone else in his family. Who knew that in the next second, the old man would be like an angry parrot. He instantly turned hostile and asked Uncle Xingyuan to chase her out without saying anything. However, the old man's anger disappeared quickly. That night, he asked Su Xingyuan to call her and ask her to send some wine over when she was free. The old man cared about his reputation. Even if he lowered his head, he wouldn't say it directly. "Elder Su, you are my teacher. Of course, I have to show my filial piety to you. I will go grocery shopping later. I will cook for the next few days," Jing Yunzhao said with a smile. The old man pursed his lips. "Then go quickly. I don't keep idle people here." Jing Yunzhao's lips curved upwards. She had heard this many times. Every time, he would say that he didn't want to keep an idle person, and then he would ask her to help him make medicine. However, the medicine he made was different every time. She had touched all kinds of snakes, insects, rats, and ants. Although Jing Yunzhao and the old man had known each other for a long time, Su Xingyuan had always been the one to cook. The old man only asked her to make medicine and never let her do chores, so this was the first time. Su Xingyuan immediately told her about the old man's preferences, and Jing Yunzhao couldn't help sweating. Old Master Su was addicted to alcohol, so naturally, there were many dishes to go with it. However, he didn't eat meat and liked to eat light food. Moreover, if the taste of light food wasn't good, he would definitely not touch his chopsticks. He was really very picky. However, his taste was very similar to hers. Jing Yunzhao was very confident in her culinary skills. When she went grocery shopping, she also bought some fireworks and firecrackers. People came and went on the street. It was crowded everywhere. As far as the eye could see, there were countless stalls on the street. There was food, drink, and entertainment. There were simply too many to count. The patches of red made people happy. Walking in front of a stall, Jing Yunzhao looked at the stacks of fireworks and pointed at one of them. Just as she was about to speak, she heard the person beside her say, "This kind of fireworks, give this young master 10 of them." "Oh right, do you have the kind with subtitles? It would be best if it was something like, 'I love you.'" Chapter 439. The voice was familiar. When Jing Yunjiao heard it, she retracted her hand and turned to leave. But after a few steps, she was stopped by someone. Meng Lin was holding a large bouquet of flowers in his hands. The bodyguards beside him were holding boxes of fireworks. He said to her, "Miss Jing, I haven't seen you in a while. You've become prettier." Jing Yunjiao's mouth twitched. In the next second, Meng Lin said, "You want to hit me? Hit me. If you hit me, I'll vent my anger on the people around me. This Huaning County is quite lively. There are people everywhere. If I cause a small accident, this new year will be even more interesting. Don't you think so?" After saying that, Meng Lin smiled arrogantly. He stood in front of her and stuffed the bouquet of flowers into her hands. "You have to hold on to it. The flowers that I, Meng Lin, give out have always been worshipped by others." Halfway through her sentence, Jing Yunjiao felt her hands become empty. A slender figure beside her stood up and took the flower in his hand to smell it. In the next second, a slightly magnetic voice said coldly, "Du Lin, I'll give it to you." As he said that, he threw the flowers into Du Lin's hands. A few petals fell from the air. Jing Yunjiao turned around and saw Li Xiaoyun smiling naughtily beside him. A few steps away, Du Lin had just received the flowers in a fluster when he saw a beauty walking past. He grinned and walked up to her, giving away the 99 roses. Meng Lin's face turned green. "Who are you?" Li Xiaoyun had one hand in his trouser pocket and the other tugged at his collar. His slender eyes shone with a dangerous light. "You don't even recognize your ancestors? Brat, are you looking for death?" Meng Lin was instantly furious. Jing Yunjiao raised his eyebrows. Meng Lin's age should be about the same as Li Xiaoyun, but his aura and appearance were weaker. At this moment, he even called him brat. The sense of contradiction was very strong. Li Xiaoyun was wearing a black woolen coat on the outside and a white shirt on the inside. A coffee-colored scarf hung around his neck. It was a simple combination, but it showed off his perfect body proportions. That faint smile on his face had a hint of coquettishness. Hearing Meng Lin's words, he said with a hint of playfulness, "You want to chase a woman with just a few broken fireworks? And she was the woman he liked but didn't dare to touch? Hadn't he only stayed in the capital for a few days? Why were all these wild bees and butterflies popping out?" Meng Lin's facial muscles twitched fiercely for a few times as he said, "I don't care where you came from, but I suggest you get the hell out of here. Otherwise, I'll make your whole family suffer." "Ah Zhao, this person is threatening me." As Li Xiaoyun spoke, he saw Jing Yunjiao's slightly thin clothes. He reached out and took down the scarf, wrapping it around her neck without saying a word. Just as the others were stunned, they heard him frown and say, "It's so scary." Jing Yunjiao's eyelids twitched. Looking at Li Xiaoyun, she was quite embarrassed. He had helped her a lot behind the scenes. Now that he was back and encountered such a situation, she didn't even have time to treat him to a meal. "This person is crazy. Don't worry about him," Jing Yunjiao said instinctively. After saying that, she paused and asked again, "Shouldn't you be at home celebrating the new year at this time? Why are you here again?" "Ancestor worship." Li Xiaoyun coughed dryly with a smile on his face. "Didn't you just worship for a few months?" Jing Yunjiao was speechless. He hadn't been gone for long, right? Our Li family's ancestors have good appetites. Chapter 440. Jing Yunjiao paused and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Behind him, Du Lin's face was full of sweat. Was he sure that the ancestors of the Li family had a good appetite, and he didn't find an excuse to run to Huaning County? He even said that he was scared to death. He didn't look like he was scared at all, did he? When Meng Xiao saw the two talking back and forth in full swing, his face was like the bottom of a pot. "Jing Yunjiao, did I warn you? You are my woman. You are not allowed to flirt with other men." Didn't Jing Yunjiao want to attract his attention? He had seen this kind of trick many times, but she was too insensible. Didn't she see that there were people around them? At this time, looking for other men to support the scene, it was embarrassing for him. Jing Yunjiao turned his head and was speechless at Meng Lin. This person was simply arrogant to the extreme. He was a bit like those brainless male protagonists in TV dramas. He thought that all the women in the world would be crazy for him. It seemed that any girl who appeared around him was attracting his attention in various ways. If you are sick, go to the doctor. Don't come out to wander. Meng Xiao, I didn't pay for the fireworks. Please tell your people to get away. Jing Yunzhao said coldly. Meng Xiao heard, don't go too far with me. Don't think that you can do whatever you want because I spoil you. Jing Yunzhao glanced at him. He only felt that talking to this kind of person was simply playing the lute to a cow. Young Master Li, let's go. Jing Yunzhao turned around. The bodyguards saw her momentum and were a little scared. They still remembered the scene of her beating people in the club. For a moment, they didn't know whether to stop her or not. Jing Yunzhao, Ming Lin shouted angrily and said, if you dare to go with him today, do you believe that I will find someone to kill him later? Li Xiaoyun stopped and the corner of his mouth raised. You say it as if I am really afraid of you. With a soft murmur, Li Xiaoyun glanced at the firework in the bodyguard's hand. He lifted his foot and kicked the firework, which instantly smashed into Meng Lin's face. The action was simple and rough. In the blink of an eye, Meng Lin fainted and his nose started bleeding. When the others saw this, they didn't care about the things in their hands anymore. They rushed forward and prepared to send him to the hospital. Li Xiaoyun sighed faintly and bent down to wipe his shoes. After making sure that there was no dust, he raised his head and smiled at Jing Yunzhao, as if the person who had just made a move was not him. Ah Zhao, are you going to spend the new year at Elder Su's place? Jing Yunzhao was a little taken aback. In her eyes, Li Xiaoyun was a man with a good demeanor. He was a bit flirtatious. Although he was full of martial arts, he usually looked very calm. It was rare for him to act so decisively. That's right. Do you want to go and have a look? Jing Yunzhao didn't even frown. He had no sympathy for Meng Lin. The old master liked strange medicinal materials. I happened to get a pair of golden silkworms when I went out of town. The old master will definitely be satisfied. Li Xiaoyun said. He and Elder Su didn't have a deep friendship, but now it was different. Elder Su's position in Jing Yunzhao's heart was probably similar to that of a teacher. He couldn't just treat him politely. This old man's temper was comparable to his old master's. They were both people who wanted to save face. Jing Yunzhao didn't think too much. He was just surprised that Li Xiaoyun mentioned the golden silkworm. This golden silkworm was pure gold. It was similar to those insects that contained phosphorus, potassium, iron, sodium, aluminum, and other microcrustaceans. Li Xiaoyun and Du Lin went back to Tianxiang House first. Jing Yunzhao found a new stall and bought fireworks and firecrackers. After that, he set off to go back to the old master's place. However, it might be unfavorable for him to go out today. As he was walking, he suddenly felt something flying behind him. He subconsciously dodged it. However, in the blink of an eye, he saw a ball hit the old lady not far away. Chapter 441. The ball wasn't big. It was just a small leather toy, but it gave the old lady a fright. The old lady was so shocked that she fell to the ground. Her children and grandchildren beside her were in a panic. This matter didn't have much to do with Jing Yunzhao, but she was a doctor after all. She walked over to take a look. The old lady didn't have a big problem. She should have sprained her waist because of the sudden fall. What's wrong with you, kid? Didn't you see the old lady? Can you play with this kind of thing on the street? The man beside the old lady scolded without any explanation. Jing Yunzhao was stunned. She pointed at herself and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Are you talking about me? Who else, sir? I didn't throw it. I'm a victim just like the old lady. I was just lucky enough to avoid it, Jing Yunzhao said politely. The other party was stunned. He didn't expect that the girl who walked over first wasn't the one who threw the ball. Their family was out shopping. Because there were many people during the new year, they were afraid that they would lose their children when they came out to play. Their eyes were mostly on the children wandering around. They didn't pay much attention to the old lady, so they didn't know how the old lady fell. However, there was still a ball on the ground. When he saw the girl walking over, he subconsciously scolded her. After Jing Yunzhao finished speaking, the person who threw the ball came over. However, she looked a little flustered. She was probably afraid of being blackmailed. Are you okay? This ball is soft. It shouldn't hurt when it hits people. The girl walked over and whispered guiltily. A tall boy stood beside the girl. He immediately said, "It's the new year. Are you trying to blackmail people?" In this day and age, there were endless ways to blackmail people. Such a strong old lady fell just like that. Who were they trying to fool? Jing Yunjiao frowned. This girl seemed a little familiar. When the other party heard what the initiator said, her face immediately turned ugly. "What are you two talking about? We didn't provoke you. Who wouldn't be shocked when you throw something at them? Not to mention the old lady." "That's not necessary. She's not that weak," the boy mumbled. He didn't show any weakness. They were poor students and had no money. When Jing Yunjiao heard this, he said, "The elasticity of the ligaments in the elderly is reduced, and the joints can't move freely. If they fall, it's easy to cause joint and muscle damage or even fracture. Moreover, most elderly people had osteoporosis. Their bones were brittle, and their recovery rate was low. Once they were injured, their lifespan would be affected." Jing Yunjiao's words immediately attracted the attention of the man and woman. The man was somewhat dissatisfied. "Who are you?" "Wait, you are Jing Yunjiao, right? Don't you remember me? We used to be classmates." The girl pointed at her and said. Jing Yunjiao's eyes widened, and he thought for a moment. But after all, she had been reborn once. In her previous life, she had lived to the age of 20. She could remember her high school classmates clearly, but she might not remember her former classmates. Just as he was hesitating, a familiar figure suddenly flashed in his mind. "Are you Wu Sisi?" "That's right." She smiled sweetly. The corner of Jing Yunjiao's mouth twitched. She suddenly felt a little strange. This person was indeed her middle school classmate. However, they had only known each other for a year before she transferred from town to Serene City. When they were in town, this girl was completely unreasonable. Every day, she would snatch her homework and threaten her not to tell the teacher. She was the first member of her blacklist in middle school in her previous life. Chapter 442. During her junior high school years, she was extremely cowardly. Not only was she bullied by Qiao Hongya every day, the other students in her class also spoke coldly to her. However, most of them just ignored her. Only a few of them had the guts to make a move on her. And among those daring people, there was this Wu Sisi in front of him. However, at that time, she had short hair and a face full of acne. She was the type of girl that the male students didn't like. But now, not only was her face much cleaner, she was also a little thinner. Her long black hair draped over her shoulders, and she was wearing a short red jacket. She was slim and elegant. It had only been 3 years or so. The changes were too big. Wu Sisi was a little unhappy when she felt Jing Yunjiao's surprised gaze. "Jing Yunjiao, why did you dodge just now? Otherwise, you wouldn't have accidentally hit this old granny," Wu Sisi said. She wasn't happy to meet her former classmates because they all remembered her ugly appearance. Back then, she was in Ningxiang town because her parents gave birth to her and wanted to put her in her grandmother's house in the countryside. At that time, the clothes her grandmother bought for her weren't beautiful, so she wasn't liked. But later, she returned to her parents' side. Every day, she saw her biological sister wearing the most beautiful clothes and being praised by others. When she appeared, everyone was stunned. At that moment, she realized what she had missed out on in the past 10 years. She took a break from school for a year, just to meet new classmates with her best appearance. It took a lot of effort to look brand new. Originally, she was going to come back to accompany her grandmother today, but coincidentally, her classmates came. There wasn't anything fun in town, so she brought them to the county. But she didn't expect to meet Jing Yunjiao. Looking at her, she seemed to be doing well. As Wu Sisi spoke, she sized up Jing Yunjiao from head to toe. Jing Yunjiao said bluntly, "If I didn't dodge, should I just stand there and wait to be hit? Didn't you just say that the old lady's body is weak? It's better to hit you than to hit the old lady. So you should take half the responsibility, right?" Wu Sisi said casually. Jing Yunjiao was carrying a basket of vegetables in one hand. The vegetables she bought were all vegetables, while her other hand was carrying some fireworks and firecrackers. They looked quite heavy, but she didn't look like she was struggling at all. Who knew if they were fake or inferior products? She heard that she had cut ties with the Chow family. Her sister, Chow Hongya, actually stole the family's money and disappeared without a trace. She was really a person who stepped on the weak. How did she not see it before? Jing Yunjiao wasn't surprised that Wu Cixi was so unreasonable. I'm sorry, but I won't take responsibility for this. I think the two of you should quickly send him to the hospital for a checkup, Jing Yunjiao said directly. When she met Wu Cixi, she was only about 12 or 13 years old. She was not very courageous and would swallow her anger every time she was bullied. Xiao Hongya always liked to maintain a good temper, so she didn't bully her too directly in school. But this Wu Cixi was different. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that she was brazen. When Wu Cixi heard Jing Yunjiao's words, she curled her lips in dissatisfaction. Let's just compensate. We'll pay 100. Jing Yunjiao, you'll pay 100 too. How about we settle this privately? After she finished speaking, she walked past Jing Yunjiao and looked at the family. In her opinion, she didn't need Jing Yunjiao's consent. If Jing Yunjiao didn't have money, then it was easy to settle. Wouldn't it be fine if she just gave them the things she bought? Chapter 443. Wu Cixi said confidently, but the family did not look too good. The old lady had already stood up while rubbing her waist. She looked at Wu Cixi with a face full of anger. Her son was even more furious. We don't want money. You don't want money? Thank you. Anyway, you have nothing to do now. We'll leave first. The boy beside Wu Cixi immediately said. With that said, he turned around to leave. How could the uncle stand it when he saw that? He immediately stopped him. You can't leave. Originally, he did not want to argue with the child. After all, there were many people on the street. It was normal for accidents to happen. Besides, it was the new year. They did not want to bring bad luck to others, let alone students. However, the other party was too unreasonable. If something happened, they should apologize. However, the moment they arrived, they said that they were blackmailing them and even wanted to settle it privately. Did they lack that little bit of money? If they relied on blackmailing others to live, the old lady would fall sick even if she was not sick. Her lifespan would be shortened. When the uncle stopped them, Wu Cixi and her classmate immediately revealed an expression of, I knew it. It was as if they had already guessed that this family was here for money. How much money do you want, uncle? Give us a straightforward answer. We are all poor students. We only have a little pocket money on us. We aren't locals. We've been out shopping all day and haven't eaten yet. The boy said, Uncle, we didn't do it on purpose. If Jing Yunjiao had not dodged, the ball wouldn't have hit you. If Jing Yunjiao doesn't take half of the responsibility, we won't take any responsibility either, Wu Cixi said. When she said that, the family's expressions turned ugly. They clearly only wanted the two of them to apologize, but they actually kept chattering and thought that they wanted to take advantage of them. You two children are too unreasonable. You clearly hit someone. It's fine if you don't apologize, but why are you still mocking others? The uncle said angrily. Wu Cixi was taken aback. She looked at the boy and immediately said, I'm sorry, okay? So you don't need to compensate me? That instantly made the uncle choke back his words. Forget it, forget it. It's impossible to reason with such an unreasonable person. The old lady shook her head and said. The old lady clutched her waist and looked uncomfortable. Jing Yunjiao glanced at her and walked up to her. He pressed a few acupuncture points on her waist and said, This should be more comfortable, right? It's true. Little girl, your technique is really good. I feel much more comfortable and warm. The old lady also felt that it was strange. Jing Yunjiao smiled. The old lady's problem was not serious. It was just that when she fell, her waist muscles and bones were affected. She did not suffer too much damage, so after massaging a few acupuncture points, she was almost healed. When you go back, ask Uncle to massage the place that I massaged just now. After a few hours, it won't hurt anymore. The old lady nodded. Okay, I'll listen to you. They're all students, but why is there such a big difference? The old lady couldn't help but mutter. Hearing this, Wu Cixi was unhappy. Old woman, what do you mean? Didn't we already say that we'll compensate you? You didn't want it, and we just apologized to you. Jing Yunjiao just went up and touched it for a while. What right do you have to compare her to me? Her voice scared the old lady again. The old lady trembled. Classmate, I'm not talking about you. She had never seen such a bad child. She didn't know how this family educated her. She looked like a good girl on the surface, but she had such a bad temper. Chapter 444. Jing Yunzhao also remembered Wu Cici's living environment. She grew up with her grandmother, who was said to be the most powerful old lady in the surrounding villages. The teachers in the school did not dare to provoke Wu Cici. Otherwise, the old lady would definitely come to cause trouble and scold other people's families. Jing Yunzhao had also seen the old lady in his previous life. She was very fierce, and when she spoke, she did not give others a chance to refute. Her voice was loud and full of energy. Under her influence, Wu Cici had almost learned the essence of it. No matter how much trouble Wu Cici caused in the past, no one dared to punish her. After all, the people in the town were very simple. Everyone had the attitude that they could not afford to offend the old lady and the child. Therefore, even if Wu Cici changed her appearance, the rascal in her bones did not change at all. In fact, there were many children in the town who grew up with the old people, but there were very few like her. Wu Cici stared at the old lady and gritted her teeth. Do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I don't understand what you mean? You are obviously praising Jing Yunzhao and belittling me. Little classmate, we didn't bother too much with you when you made a mistake just now. Is it appropriate for you to make the old lady angry because of a sentence? If something bad happens to our family's old lady, can you bear the responsibility? The uncle immediately said. There were many people on the street. Although they were standing by the side of the road, the other places were even noisier. Therefore, no one stopped to pay attention. Are you bullying us because there are only two of you? Wu Cici said, then glanced at Jing Yunzhao and said coldly, What the hell? Then what's the point of comparing me to Jing Yunzhao? Do you know who she is? She's just an ingrate. Her father is in a wheelchair every day and doesn't eat or drink. She doesn't even care about him. Is this kind of person worthy of being compared to me? The father Wu Cici was talking about was naturally Qiao Weimin. The matter of Qiao Weimin breaking his leg was well known by everyone. However, no one in the town sympathized with him. After all, Qiao Weimin's deeds had been spread across the streets. In the eyes of others, it was just karma. Wu Cici hadn't returned to Ningxiang town for a long time, so she didn't know many things in detail. Jing Yunzhao hadn't even opened her mouth when she saw Wu Cici staring at her and laughing coldly. Jing Yunzhao, you're really something. You're really getting more and more capable now. You even learned how to pretend to be a good person. What's the matter? Are you trying to embarrass me on purpose? We've been classmates for a year. Do you have to side with an outsider? Oh, by the way, don't think that we didn't see it just now. A man said that you're his woman, right? But just now, I saw that he fainted and was sent away. Is there something wrong with his body? I advise you to be careful. If you often stand by the river, your shoes will get wet. It won't be good if one day you catch a disease. Wu Cici said again. She saw Jing Yunzhao just now, but she didn't recognize him. It was mainly because Jing Yunzhao was much more beautiful. At that time, she was only surprised by the man who had bought 10 or 20 fireworks, so she took a few more glances. As for what happened after that, she didn't pay much attention because she saw the things she wanted to buy. She only knew that the two men had left. It was also at that time that she saw Jing Yunzhao's back and remembered who she was. That rubber ball was indeed thrown at Jing Yunzhao just now, who knew that she seemed to have eyes on the back of her head and avoided it so accurately. It was too strange. Chapter 445. Wu Cici's face was full of disdain. Her words gave the people beside her a headache. Are you done? Jing Yunzhao stood there, neither servile nor overbearing, and said, I haven't seen you for 2 or 3 years, and your skin is thicker than before. In the past, you only copied my homework and threatened me to cheat for you. Now, you can reverse right and wrong? You even complained about Qiao Weimin just now? Didn't you find out why he was so miserable? A bastard who abused his adopted daughter is worthy of your protection. Your worldview is indeed shocking. The family didn't believe Wu Cici's words. After all, It wasn't like they didn't see this girl's mischievous appearance. Now that they heard Jing Yunjiao speak, the old lady and the others were very surprised and resentful. 2 or 3 years ago, looking at the two little girls now, it seemed that this Wu Cece had been bad since she was young. Jing Yunjiao, don't you think you are ridiculous? Do you think that after leaving the Chao family and coming to Huaning County, you can live like a dog? Look at the things you bought. They are all vegetables. Don't tell me you are going to use these weeds to fill your stomach. It's New Year. How miserable. Wu Cece mocked. After saying that, she thought about it and raised her hand to take the leftover snacks from the boy next to her. Do you want me to reward you? Jing Yunjiao looked at her calmly, but didn't care. He changed the topic. Are you going to compensate the old lady however much I compensate her? Previously, we said that each person would get half, right? Speaking of money, Wu Cece curled her lips. Are you crazy? Why should I compensate? Are you stupid? It seems that you are right to say that you are poor. Since you are so poor, these snacks are better for you to fill your stomach. And I think it's not that you don't want to compensate, but that you don't have the ability to compensate, right? In that case, what right do you have to laugh at me for eating these vegetables? Jing Yunjiao said. Wu Cece glanced at him. What a coincidence. I have my New Year's money in advance. In addition to my usual pocket money, I am not as poor as you. Isn't it just compensation? All right, I'll take whatever amount you, Jing Yunjiao, take out. But if I can take it out, then you have to kowtow to me on the streets and apologize. You also have to make them return my money to me. How about that? How much money could Jing Yunjiao have on her? Most of the fireworks should have been gone by now, right? She heard from the people in town that she recognized someone as her godgrandfather. Perhaps she was here today to run as an errand boy, but the other party wouldn't give her a lot of money. Jing Yunjiao pursed her lips. Okay, but what if you can't come up with the same amount of money as me? Wu Cece sneered. Of course. But also, I left some of my money with my classmate, so it's reasonable for me to get the money from him, Wu Cece added. Jing Yunjiao nodded. Okay. Wu Cece took out her own wallet and the wallet of the boy next to her, waiting for Jing Yunjiao to make a move. Jing Yunjiao put down the things in her hands, glanced at her, and took out 2 red banknotes from her bag. The other party looked at it and revealed a look of understanding. She immediately took out 2 banknotes and waved them in her hand. But this proud smile didn't last for more than 2 seconds. Jing Yunjiao took out 5 bills at once. Wu Cece's smile froze, but she didn't panic. She flipped through her wallet and took out another 500 yuan. But there was a lot of change in the wallet. The remaining money in the wallet added up to less than 100 yuan. She was a student. Even if she had New Year's money and pocket money, she wouldn't have much. Moreover, their mouths were greasy and they looked like they were having fun. It was obvious that they had spent a lot. Now, the two of them had more than 700 yuan in their hands. Chapter 446. The corner of Jing Yunjiao's mouth slightly hooked up. He took out another 10 notes from his pocket. Do you still need to count? Comparing money with her? She was the big boss behind Yuling Wines. How could she lack money? Not to mention Yuling Wines, which made an astonishing amount of money every day. Even Du Lin's Yutianxian and the tea house's income couldn't be underestimated. Wu Cece's face turned ugly. Seeing Jing Yunjiao take out so much money, she couldn't believe it. Where did you get so much money? Oh, I know. It was given by the 2 men just now, right? You're biting like a mad dog after losing? Jing Yunjiao sneered. Wu Cece classmate, don't you know the rules of accepting defeat? Please take out the 700 yuan. Also, kneel down and apologize. If Wu Cece won, she would take the money herself. But since she lost, she naturally had to compensate the old lady. I won't. What's the point of you winning an unfair battle? Why should I admit it when you bet with me with money from being a mistress? As she spoke, she quickly stuffed all the money into her wallet. I'm telling you, if you dare to rob me, I'll call the police. Jing Yunjiao smiled. I won't rob you, but Wu Cece, do you want one of your parents to lose their job? What did you say? Wu Cece was startled. Was Jing Yunjiao crazy about money? Her parents lost their jobs? What a joke. They worked in Ning City. Now they both jumped ship to a very promising company. Who was Jing Yunjiao? Did he think that her parents wouldn't be able to survive just because she threatened them? In front of her, Jing Yunjiao looked at the travel bag she was carrying and couldn't help but smile. The world was so small. Enemies would always meet. Yuling Wine Company's year-end bonus wasn't bad. Not only did the top management get a bonus, they also gave every employee some gifts such as rice, oil, alcohol, and some bonuses. Other than that, there were also year-end lucky draws. Some gave computers, mobile phones, electric bikes, and so on. The normal consolation prize was the travel bag that Wu Cece was carrying on her back. The bag wasn't expensive, but the design was very good. She had personally gone through all the prizes, and the designs were all chosen by her. She had even specially printed the company's logo on the bag. Not to mention being so close, even if it was 10 meters away, she would be the first to notice it. Therefore, she was certain that one of Wu Cece's parents worked at Yuling Wines. After all, although this travel bag looked good, it was more practical. Most people kept it at home and rarely gave it away. Wu Cece, someone in your family works at Jade Spirit Wine, right? Jing Yunjiao asked directly. She didn't want to be implicated, but she really didn't hold back against Wu Cece. She was just that vengeful. She couldn't tolerate the parents of a girl who had bullied her so much in her previous life that she couldn't even raise her head. She couldn't tolerate the fact that Wu Cece used her salary as capital to abuse her. How do you know? Wu Cece asked subconsciously. After saying that, she laughed to herself. I didn't expect you to know about Yuling Wines. I don't know the background of the two men you know, but I can tell you that Yuling Wines is considered a big company. Many people in the company have connections, and they won't be easily threatened. Moreover, my father isn't an ordinary employee. You want my parents to work for you? Dream on. Seems like both of your parents are working there? Jing Yunjiao pursed her lips and smiled. As the company grew bigger and bigger, they naturally could not know all the people they recruited like they did in the beginning. She did not want to know about Wu Cece's parents. She only knew that they had a daughter who cheated her parents. She deserved to be fired. With such a daughter's character, she should stop thinking about earning money and educate her at home. If they worked in other companies, she wouldn't care, but her company couldn't tolerate people who went against her. Chapter 447. Jing Yunjiao's smile looked a little scary. Wu Cece's heart flashed with a trace of uneasiness, but in the blink of an eye, that uneasiness in her heart was pacified. She did not believe Jing Yunjiao's words. She must be deliberately mystifying to scare her. How could she not know Jing Yunjiao? In the past, when she was in school, she did not even have enough to eat. Although Qiao Hongya always showed that she was incomparably considerate towards Jing Yunjiao, in reality, she had never seen Jing Yunjiao enjoy any good treatment. Qiao Hongya's pocket money was endless, and she enjoyed all kinds of snacks every day, but Jing Yunjiao's stomach was always growling. Qiao Hongya always said that she was trying to lose weight or that she had a conflict with her family, but Wu Cece did not believe her. Although she did not like Qiao Hongya, she was also disgusted with Jing Yunjiao, this good student. She was obviously a pitiful worm, but so many teachers liked her. She was simply annoying. Jing Yunjiao, why do you care where my parents work? Besides, since you're so rich, you can compensate them yourself. Don't use my parents to scare me. I won't fall for it. After a while, seeing that Jing Yunjiao was still staring at her, Wu Cece braced herself and said. After she finished speaking, she turned to leave. Losing to Jing Yunjiao was simply too embarrassing. Jing Yunjiao directly took out his phone and dialed Pak Yuan's number. Pak Yuan had 2 phones on him. One of them was specially prepared for the big boss, Jing Yunjiao. It was not switched off 24/7, making it convenient for communication. Every time Jing Yunjiao called, it would not ring more than 3 times, and he would definitely hear Pak Yuan's voice. Not only Pak Yuan, but even Xiang Jin was the same. Therefore, when Jing Yunjiao dialed, there was almost an instant response from the other end of the phone. Pak Yuan's voice was somewhat suspicious as he said, Yunjiao? Brother Bai, please help me check if there are any employees with the surname Wu in the company. Both husband and wife work in the company, Jing Yunjiao said directly. Wu Cece stopped in her tracks and turned around to stare at her phone in disbelief. This phone was the latest model this year. And it was smart. Wu Cece was a little envious. This phone was not cheap. Her sister had one, but she had pestered her parents for a long time. They did not agree and did not give it to her, which made her upset for a long time. As soon as Jing Yunzhao said that, Pak Yuan made the arrangements. Although it was the holiday period, many people stayed in the company for the high overtime pay. Moreover, Pak Yuan had the information of the company's employees on his computer. After a simple selection, he found Wu Cece's parents. Yes, the man is called Wu Dali. He's 40 years old this year. His wife is called Sun Jia. Wu Dali is a supervisor in the Human Resources Department. His wife is an assistant who trains newcomers. Pak Yuan rubbed his eyebrows. The company had a rule that members of the same family were not allowed to work in the same department. The main thing was that Wu Dali met the company's requirements in terms of education and qualifications. However, his wife was not. Her education was not enough, and her resume clearly stated that she used to work in a factory. To put it bluntly, she had never worked in this line of work. In fact, as long as she did well now, it did not matter what she did in the past. However, people with discerning eyes could see that the reason why his wife could come to Yuling Wines was probably because he had done something after he became a supervisor. When the water was too clear, there would be no fish. Occasionally, there would be mistakes in the company that should not be made. However, as a leader, Pak Yuan could not tolerate it. The salary given by the company was generally higher than other companies. The treatment and other aspects were the best. However, some people were greedy and wanted to take advantage of it. That was asking for trouble. Chapter 448. Pak Yuan did not know the purpose of Jing Yunzhao's call. When he saw the file, he pondered for a while. I'm sorry, Yunzhao. I wasn't strict enough. Someone made a mistake, Pak Yuan said. He still remembered how excited he was when Jing Yunzhao handed him more than 30 million. At that time, he had just returned from Capital City. He had just experienced the despair of being fired, ostracized, and even cuckolded. He was already thinking of returning to the small town to fend for himself. Jing Yunzhao's sudden appearance in front of him made him regain his former ambition. He even thought of returning to Capital City one day and showing off in front of that adulterous couple. Although it was a little childish, he was a man. He could tolerate other things, but being poached was equivalent to slapping his face. If he did not remember it, he might not even have the guts to be a man. Jing Yunzhao gave him this opportunity. Although it was a little hard, he was very comfortable doing this job. Therefore, even if it was a small mistake, he was willing to bear it in front of Jing Yunzhao. Jing Yunzhao muttered, "How is this Wu Dali's reputation in the company?" Pak Yuan was stunned. "Wait, I'll ask a few people." There was nothing special in the file. There were no outstanding achievements and no major mistakes. According to the file, Jing Yunzhao might not be satisfied. While Jing Yunzhao was on the phone, Wu Cece stood there in a daze. At first, she did not dare to believe it. After that, she had some intention of teasing. She did not believe that Jing Yunzhao really called CEO by. Since she was willing to put on an act, she would wait here. Later on, her parents were still fine. Let's see what she had to say. Not long after, Pak Yuan continued, "This Wu Dali is pretty good at doing things. He's quite direct, but he can't be considered an honest person. After all, he's been in the workplace for so many years. His wife's reputation isn't too good. Just now, someone said that her hands and feet weren't clean and hinted for the newcomer to give her a gift." Originally, Pak Yuan wouldn't have heard of this kind of thing. However, after making a few calls to his subordinates, someone panicked. At this time, CEO Pak Yuan was definitely not inquiring about Wu Dali and his wife to pay a New Year's visit. Although Pak Yuan had only asked a simple question at that time, the effect was different from before. When they asked about Wu Dali's superior and his colleagues, the leader's attitude was naturally very serious. It was inevitable that everyone would tremble in fear. They all thought that the higher-ups knew about Wu Dali and his wife, so they obediently told them everything. The workplace was like a battlefield. She couldn't possibly throw herself into it for the sake of an ordinary person. Therefore, the matter between the husband and wife was instantly exposed. Jing Yunzhao raised his eyebrows. "Since it's against the rules, fire them immediately." Right now. After he said that, Pak Yuan thought for a while. Did the husband and wife offend you? Jing Yunjiao couldn't have paid attention to a supervisor and a small employee for no reason. Although Wu Dali was considered a small leader, he wasn't related to the higher-ups at all. Jing Yunjiao knew every member of the higher-ups very well, but he shouldn't have paid attention to Wu Dali. He didn't offend me, but his daughter did. Oh right, when you're notifying them of their dismissal, don't forget to remind them to follow the example of their superiors. After Jing Yunjiao finished speaking, he hung up the phone. Wu Sisi smiled. Jing Yunjiao, I didn't realize that you had such talent in the past. It's a pity that you didn't go into acting. Chapter 449. Wu Sisi was laughing in her heart. This was the first time she had seen someone act so idiotically and seriously. Every action and expression seemed real. If it wasn't impossible, she would have believed that she was really ordering Director Bai to fire them. Not to mention Wu Sisi, even the family next to her didn't believe that Jing Yunjiao could really decide the career of this girl's parents. You think I'm acting, right? In less than 10 minutes, you can call home and ask, Jing Yunjiao said with a smile. It didn't even take 10 minutes. The company fired her parents, so logically speaking, they should compensate them with some salary. However, this couple had committed a crime. They knew that the company had rules against nepotism, but they were still so brazen. That was fine, but Wu Sisi's mother even hinted at the newcomers to give them gifts. From the perspective of a leader, these newcomers represented the future of the company. What right did she, a training assistant, have to bully the newcomers? If this kind of thing became a trend, then it would really be bad from the roots. Many newcomers would probably think that if they wanted to stay in the company and do better, they had to build relationships layer by layer. Of course, her thinking was a bit exaggerated, but it was definitely not without reason. Wu Sisi rolled her eyes and casually threw away the bag of leftover snacks in her hand. What's the big deal? I'll wait. Time passed by minute by minute. Jing Yunjiao was calm and composed, and Wu Sisi was even more so. The child in the family next to them was a bit noisy. He pestered his mother to buy some food nearby. Wu Sisi's classmate was the same. He was too lazy to accompany the two girls and want to find some fun nearby. Once 10 minutes were up, Wu Sisi immediately took out her phone and started to make a call. However, the line was busy, so she waited for a while. After several attempts, it finally connected. Sisi, what's the matter? Your father is annoyed now. Don't call. Oh right, come back early tonight. Don't make your father angry. A familiar voice came from the other end of the phone. Wu Sisi panicked. What happened at home? Could it be that Jing Yunjiao really impossible? Wu Sisi immediately denied it in her heart. But comforting oneself was not as straightforward as the truth. Wu Sisi's mother continued, Sai, your father and I were fired by the company. It doesn't matter to me, but your father's salary is high. I thought I had a secure job, but who knew? Suddenly, Wu Sisi felt her brain buzzing. Was he fired? Why? He pretended to be calm and asked again. Your dad saw that I was working hard at the factory, so he transferred me there. Actually, I violated the company's taboo. Also, the higher-ups found out about the newbie giving me gifts. I heard that CEO Bai was quite angry. Other than your dad and me, I'm afraid he'll have to clean up some people after the new year. In Pak Yuan's eyes, even if he could tolerate sand, he could not tolerate stone. These two people's positions were not high, but they were so brazen. This proved that there were people in the HR department who did the same thing. Moreover, an assistant had accepted the gift. What about the others? Since he had found something fishy, he could not let it continue to fester. By the way, the company also said something about subordinates following the example of their superiors. Your dad and I don't know what it means. As soon as he said this, Wu Sisi was so frightened that she immediately hung up the phone. If her parents knew that they lost their jobs because of her, they would definitely beat her to death. Looking up at Jing Yunjiao again, she was a little flustered. She subconsciously swallowed and was suddenly speechless. Chapter 450. Wu Sisi felt that her mind was a little fuzzy. She even wondered if she had just had a nightmare. How could Jing Yunjiao have such an ability? Wu Sisi was terrified. Do you need me to tell your parents why they resigned? Jing Yunzhao asked again. He was already being polite by teaching her a lesson for bullying her back then. Furthermore, her parents had indeed made a mistake. A hint of nervousness flashed across Wu Cici's face. In the next second, she looked at the family and gritted her teeth. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I only have this much money on me. You can go to the hospital later. She only took out 300 yuan. The reason why she had 700 yuan before was because she had a classmate standing beside her. Now that her classmate wasn't around, this money was indeed her entire family's money. People like Wu Cici who bullied the weak and feared the strong were probably people like her. She was realistic and selfish. Once she met someone strong, she would immediately show weakness. The other family was stunned. They looked at the money in front of them but didn't take it. We already said that we don't want your money. If you had sincerely apologized from the start, things wouldn't have turned out this way. Wu Cici glanced at Jing Yunzhao and nodded. She was arrogant outside, but when she came home, she had to be obedient. She had an older sister. Her parents wanted to give birth to a boy, but she disappointed them. At that time, birth control was very strict. If her parents were caught, they would have to pay a large sum of money. Hence, she was thrown back to her maternal grandmother's house. She was a girl and brought trouble to her family, so her parents didn't like to talk to her. They would come back to visit her during festivals, but she had nothing to say to her parents. They were like relatives. It wasn't until 3 years ago, during the winter break on the second day of Chinese New Year, that they took care of everything for her and brought her back. However, her parents were very polite to her at first. Later on, they didn't pay much attention to her because she was far worse than her sister. She was vulgar and not like a girl. Her grades weren't good, and she had a thick dialect. She didn't fit in with the girls in the big city. Although she had adapted to the environment now, her parents were still very biased towards her sister. If they knew that she was the main reason why her parents lost their jobs, she would have a hard time. He couldn't help but feel a little regretful. If he had known earlier, he would have pretended not to know Jing Yunzhao. She just felt that she hadn't seen Jing Yunzhao for a long time and subconsciously wanted to bully her. In the past, Jing Yunzhao's life wasn't as good as hers, so she naturally assumed that the current Jing Yunzhao was the same. It was only when she saw Jing Yunzhao that she felt a bit of balance in her heart, feeling that her life wasn't bad. Who knew that Jing Yunzhao actually knew Yu Lingwine's CEO Bai? Moreover, when she was talking to CEO Bai, she didn't seem to be acting coquettishly. She couldn't figure out the relationship between Jing Yunzhao and that CEO Bai. Once Wu Cici apologized, the family didn't want to argue with her anymore. All right, young lady, you should be more careful next time. Don't say that someone is trying to blackmail you the moment you open your mouth. That's simply insulting. After the old lady said that, she turned to Jing Yunzhao and said, "Thank you, little girl. If there's nothing else, we'll leave first." As she said that, her son immediately went up to her. She walked towards the booth where her daughter-in-law and grandson were. However, after a few steps, she saw the family's daughter-in-law running over with a nervous expression. "Mom, did you see Xiaojie?" Chapter 451. The commotion had lasted for about 20 minutes, and the two grandsons could not stand it any longer. Hence, the daughter-in-law brought the two children to the nearby stalls to shop. Because there were a lot of people and it was very noisy, it was easy to get lost. Hence, when the daughter-in-law said that, the old man's expression changed drastically. Jing Yunzhao had also seen the child just now. The lost one was about 4 or 5 years old, and the eldest grandson was not very old either, about 7 or 8 years old. Now, the daughter-in-law was holding his hand. Perhaps he was a little frightened, as he was crying non-stop. When Wu Cici saw that this family was in trouble, she shrank back and found an opportunity to quickly leave. What happened? Where's Xiaojie? Didn't I just ask you to look after the child? The uncle asked anxiously. The woman was so anxious that her eyes turned red. I don't know. The two of them wanted to eat, and I had to pay, so I let go of my hand. But I asked the eldest to hold the second one, but when I turned back after paying, he was gone. I thought he ran back to look for you. The moment he said that, the whole family was thrown into disarray. Hurry up and look for him. My good grandson. The old lady's body was trembling, and her voice was trembling. She lifted her feet and walked towards the place where her grandson had disappeared. After such a thing happened, Jing Yunjiao could not sit back and do nothing, so he followed behind to take a look. There were many people on the street, and the probability of accidents happening during the new year was higher. Not to mention car accidents, there were many people who lost their children. It would be fine if they got lost. After all, if they met a kind-hearted person, they would be sent to the police station. But if they met a human trafficker, how could they find him in this sea of people? Because of this, the family was even more anxious. They asked the old man to look after the eldest grandson, and the husband and wife shuttled through the streets. "Son, that's my son." In the crowd, Jing Yunjiao vaguely heard the daughter-in-law shout. Jing Yunjiao looked in the direction she was pointing excitedly. Among the countless people, he finally saw the back of an unfamiliar person holding a child. She had seen that child before, so even though they were far away, she could roughly recognize him from the color and style of his clothes. The child had not been lost for long, and the other party had not gone far. It was fortunate that she could see him now. However, the distance between the child and the mother was not far, but it was not an exaggeration to say that it was a sea of people. The surroundings were noisy. Even if she screamed at the top of her lungs, other than a few people nearby, the people not far away did not notice. The person carrying the child hurriedly walked forward while not forgetting to look around. He squeezed through the crowd, causing many people to be dissatisfied, but no one said anything. The child seemed to be holding a lollipop in his hand, but he was still crying loudly. "How can this be? Isn't this asking for my life?" Tears streamed down the old lady's face. Beside her, her eldest grandson was sobbing. The old lady grabbed his hand, afraid that she would lose him too. "Grandma, leave me your phone number. I'll help you look for it. If I find it, I'll call you." Jing Yunjiao looked into the distance and hurriedly put down his things. He took out a pen and paper from his pocket and said, Okay. In this kind of situation, one more person meant more power. The old lady hurriedly recited a string of numbers with trembling hands. "This is my son's phone number." Jing Yunjiao nodded. He looked at the things on the ground and felt a little helpless. It was definitely inconvenient to lead these people forward. There were so many people, and it was impossible to store them in the space. It was also not good to ask the old lady to help look after them, so he could only waste them. Chapter 452. Jing Yunjiao couldn't care less. She lifted her feet and chased in the direction of the crowd. She didn't want to meddle in other people's business, but why did she learn martial arts? She couldn't just watch this old lady's grandson be taken away right under her nose without saying a word, right? In another place, the couple also squeezed through. The couple was crying so hard that many people made way for them. However, they had already seen the other person's figure, but in the next second, the other person turned and disappeared in front of them. When they rushed over to take a look again, the person was nowhere to be seen. Jing Yunjiao's face was serious. Her attention was focused, and she never left the other person. When the other person turned into another street, she quickly paid attention to all the people with similar figures. She saw that the person just now seemed to have changed a jacket. Even the child's clothes were different. His small head was wrapped in a scarf, and a new hat was put on. Outsiders couldn't see anything wrong at all. When Jing Yunjiao was chasing the person, she had been observing every feature of the person, from the appearance of the person's clothes to the way they walked. The person looked no different from an ordinary person, but everyone's physical condition was different, especially when they were nervous. Their muscles were tight, and the strength they used in their legs would be different. Therefore, she could find the target at a glance among so many people. The other person ran very fast. When Jing Yunjiao was more than 10 meters away, the person had already gotten into a van. The license plate of the van was covered. Even if it was exposed, it might not be real. Therefore, Jing Yunjiao could only bite the bullet and chase after the person. Squatting down to tie her shoelaces, Jing Yunjiao took a deep breath and sped up to catch up. There were countless obstacles in front of her. Everyone saw a figure jumping over the roadblocks easily. It looked like a movie. Oh my God! Is this woman wearing spandex shoes? How can she jump so far? Don't you think it's cool? If she participates in the school's 100-meter dash, she might break the record. No, she can directly participate in the athlete's race. Several girls looked at Jing Yunjiao's figure and said in surprise, "Is she chasing after that car? No way. Can she outrun it? She's so fast." She attracted a lot of attention. Although she was very fast, strangely, no one felt that she was in a sorry state. The coffee-colored scarf on her neck flew in an arc, bringing with it a faint fragrance. As she got further and further away from the van, she rushed onto the road as if she didn't care about her life. With a leap, she actually jumped onto the roof of someone else's car. She was like a Batman that only appeared on TV. Borrowing the car's speed, she got closer and closer to her target. Just as she was about to pass by the van, Jing Yunjiao pulled down the scarf on her neck and threw it at the empty front passenger seat. The car window broke. The other party's car still hadn't stopped. Jing Yunjiao's silhouette flashed, and her whole person entered the car through the broken window. No way. Hurry up and hit me. Am I dreaming right now? Are there cameras? The corner of the girl's mouth twitched as she watched from afar. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. That girl looked about the same age as them. She wasn't a muscular woman. That's right. And the thing that smashed the car window was a scarf and not a gravity weapon. But if that's right, how did she do it? She swallowed her saliva unconsciously. Although she clearly saw the whole process of the girl chasing the van, she was now in a trance. What happened before wasn't very clear. It was like an illusion. Chapter 453. This scene was like a science fiction movie. Even the van driver was dumbfounded. The girl who appeared out of nowhere in the front passenger seat was looking at him coldly, as if she would break his neck in the next second. Suddenly, the van stopped by the roadside. The driver was about 30 years old. In the back seat was the woman holding the child. She looked nervous, but there was nothing she could do. She could only get out of the car to negotiate. Jing Yunjiao smashed the window, attracting a lot of attention. When the man got out of the car, he immediately said to Jing Yunjiao innocently, "What's wrong with you, little girl? How can you do such a dangerous thing?" The other party's attitude was not bad. He seemed to be concerned. Jing Yunjiao stared at the child in the woman's hand and said coldly, "Give this child back to me." The woman's heart skipped a beat. She felt guilty and afraid. This was not the first time he had done such a thing. Every time it was a festive season, it would be best to fool everyone. He would dress up a little, and he would be able to fool everyone. He had never made a mistake before. But this time, a little girl actually chased after him? What? What do you mean? What do you want my son for? The other party asked nervously. Your son? Didn't you just snatch this child from the street in the square? Jing Yunjiao said coldly. When the people around heard her, they were shocked. They all looked at the child. The child had red lips and white teeth. His chubby little face was very cute. However, there were still some tears on his face. He looked a little pitiful. He pouted and looked scared. Could it be that she really snatched him? Little girl, don't talk nonsense. This is my son. How can it be snatched? You can't accuse others even if you want to do a good deed. Why don't you see how you scared my son? The man suddenly roared. His roar scared the little boy so much that he couldn't even open his mouth to speak. You wait. I'll call the police and call their parents. Then, everything will be clear. Jing Yunjiao took out her phone. When the man saw it, his face changed. He quickly squatted beside the child and hugged him. Good son, don't be afraid. Daddy will beat the bad guy away. Everyone, take a look. The little girl just jumped down from the roof of the car. Could it be that she has a mental problem? My son is scared out of his wits. What if he calls his accomplices over? What are we going to do then? The woman next to her raised her voice and said, Nowadays, human traffickers are thinking of ways to kidnap children. Young lady, you're still young. It's better if you turn yourself in as soon as possible. No one could compare to her ability to reverse black and white. Since you said that I'm a human trafficker, all the more reason to wait for the police, Jing Yunjiao said. With one look, the other party knew that this young lady would not give up until all hope was gone. Seeing that she had made the call, they were extremely anxious. After all, this young lady was too strange. She had actually chased them all the way, and they had not even been able to drive. When the woman saw this, she thought about it and suddenly knelt down with a plop. She said to the people around her, "I beg everyone to help us. I'm really the mother of this child. This little girl is actually my ex-husband's illegitimate daughter. My ex-husband fooled around outside and had a lot of children. I finally divorced him, but who would have thought that he would actually steal my child away? I'm the child's biological mother. That bastard is not human. He beats and scolds the child and often doesn't give him food. I really can't stand it anymore, so I want to take the child back. I beg you, please help this poor mother of mine." Chapter 454. As the woman spoke, she kept kowtowing to the crowd. When the surrounding people saw this, they couldn't help but sympathize with her. "Just look at her skills and you'll know. She learned them from that damned ex-husband. My ex-husband likes to beat people up the most. This little girl is also bad. Sometimes she makes my son dress up as a beggar to go out and ask for money." The woman's acting skills were excellent. Her eyes were red and tears streamed down her face. She was now forced into a desperate situation, so she used a lot of strength when she kowtowed. After a few kowtows, her forehead was so red that it looked like blood was about to flow down. It touched people's hearts. Who would believe that she was lying when she looked like this? Immediately, the surrounding crowd blocked the couple's path. They pointed at Jing Yunzhao and said, "This child is also your younger brother. How can you be so cruel and not let him go with his mother? It's obvious that you don't treat him well. The child is already crying like this, but you still won't let him go. That's right, that's right. Everyone, let's block her. It won't be good if she called this big sister's ex-husband." The crowd formed a circle with Jing Yunzhao in the middle. Jing Yunzhao looked at these people in surprise and was speechless. How could they believe such a lousy lie? Just because the other party looked like a weakling? Seeing that the pair of human traffickers had gotten back into the car, Jing Yunzhao said, "All of you, get out of the way." "No, don't be ungrateful, child. It's only right for a child to look for his mother," the onlookers said. Jing Yunzhao knew that these people had good intentions, but she felt that there were many ways to be kind. If she blindly believed them now, it would only cause her death. Seeing that these people didn't give way, Jing Yunzhao didn't want to be polite. Her hand was still wrapped in the scarf that Li Xiaoyun gave her to keep out the cold. Jing Yunzhao rushed out of the crowd and lifted her leg to kick a few people's calves. Instantly, their legs went numb, and they couldn't lift them at all. She was fast enough and rushed to the side of the car. She pressed hard on the other party's acupuncture points and easily snatched the child into her arms. The child cried so miserably that his throat was torn. At this time, the man and woman saw that there was no way to turn the situation around. They looked at each other and crazily climbed into the car. Jing Yunzhao gritted his teeth, turned around, and rushed to the front of the car. His hand slammed down on the front window and actually shattered the steering wheel. Immediately, everyone who saw this sucked in a cold breath. Jing Yunzhao's elbow was dripping blood from the car window, and it looked particularly horrifying. The group of onlookers couldn't help but take a step back in shock. Now that the car was broken, the man and woman could no longer use it. They wanted to run away, but Jing Yunzhao could even destroy the car. How could he give them the chance? He wrapped the scarf around their necks, strangling them tightly. This place was about 2 or 3 streets away from where the child was lost. When the child was lost, the police were called immediately. Therefore, in less than 10 minutes, a group of people rushed over. Shaojia. When the child's mother saw this, her tears fell. She rushed over and cried. Jing Yunzhao stuffed the child back. "We found him, but you have to be careful next time." These 2 traffickers acted quickly. Obviously, they weren't novices. They must have kidnapped more than one child, right? Jing Yunzhao sighed inwardly, her feelings a little complicated. Just now, she knew martial arts and directly suppressed the other party, so the tragedy didn't happen. However, if she didn't know martial arts, she was afraid that no one would believe her even if she screamed until her throat was broken. She could only let the child be taken away. Chapter 455. The family held the child tightly and refused to let go. All of them were in tears. When the onlookers saw this, they weren't so stupid as to be deceived. Moreover, the child was crying badly just now. Now that his mother had coaxed him, he was much better. If he wasn't her biological child, who would believe it? However, at this moment, all of them were angry after being deceived. Just now, this pair of human traffickers acted so well. Their heads were broken, and their tears were no less than this family's. If they were sent to the Best Actor and Best Actress awards, they would definitely be selected. However, although they were angry, when they thought of the scene of helping the evildoers, they felt a little embarrassed. "Student, I'm really sorry. Just now we thought—" Someone sighed and said with some difficulty. Jing Yunjiao shook her head. "You did something bad with good intentions. However, I think that if you encounter this kind of thing again in the future, neither side will let you leave. It's best to call the police directly. At this time, it wasn't good to believe anyone. The best way should be to call the police, right? If this kind of righteous mentality happened a few more times, there would be a lot of unjust cases." The group of people nodded in shame. The group of people were all uncles and aunts. It was really embarrassing to be reminded by a little girl. Fortunately, the child was fine. If he was really taken away, they would probably not be able to live in peace for the rest of their lives after knowing the truth. After Jing Yunjiao finished speaking, she touched her arm and felt a slight pain from her elbow. She was a little anxious when the little guy cried just now, so she was a little harsh. At this moment, the police arrived. Seeing the two human traffickers in a sorry state in the van, they were surprised. However, what shocked them more was Jing Yunjiao. They didn't expect a little girl to save them. If there was only one human trafficker, it would be fine. However, there were two of them. They didn't know whether to praise her or warn her. "I've seen you before. You should be Jing Yunjiao, right? You did a good job, but you still have to be careful in the future. I heard that you crossed the road and jumped out of the car. This is a little dangerous," one of the policemen said. Jing Yunjiao could be considered an acquaintance in the police station. She was outstanding and had a very famous incident a few months ago. It was normal for people to recognize her. Jing Yunjiao nodded humbly. The man glanced at her and then at her arm. "Why is there so much blood? Let's get in the car together. I'll take you to the hospital to get your wounds bandaged." "No, I don't live far from here. I have medicine and a doctor at home. I don't need to go to the hospital," Jing Yunjiao said. "Old Man Su is probably going to explode right now, right?" She had only gone out to buy groceries, but she had stayed outside for so long. She was afraid that when she went back, she would be accused of being lazy and not working. If she went to the hospital now, it would be even worse. The policeman hurriedly reminded her a few more times. He was very concerned, but in the end, seeing Jing Yunjiao's firm refusal, he really had no choice. In the end, he thought about it and decided to send her home. Jing Yunjiao originally thought that she would have to buy groceries again, but she didn't expect that someone would deliver them to her not long after. It was said that when their family lost their child, someone comforted the old lady and helped her take care of her belongings. Jing Yunjiao was very grateful. She carried the things she bought into the police car and was directly sent to Old Man Su's courtyard. Sure enough, when she pushed the door open, she saw the old man groaning. "Stupid girl, what did you go to play again? Are you trying to starve this old man to death?" You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.